NRL Fantasy Team List Tuesday. A little bit later this week. Again, look, apologies, guys. Last couple of weeks I've been out in the community doing some work with youth, and I got a bit carried away, I will admit, in that last session. Ran a bit overtime. It's a good thing, but unfortunately it did delay our Team List news. So we're going to jump right into this. I'm Longy. We got Monty here as well. And let's go with these team lists. So first up, jumping straight in, Broncos v Doggies. And for the Broncos and the Dogs, big change to start. So the fullback spot, we got Selwyn Cobbo sitting there. In the back line, we have Mariner, Staggs, Shibasaki, Arthurs. Then we got Ben Hunt, Adam Reynolds in the halves. Jumping through, forward pack is Carrigan, Walters, Haas. Then we have Wilson in the back row, which is an interesting difference there. And Jordan Ricky as well. With Kobe Hetherington at lock, he played plenty of minutes last week. Interchange is Corey Pakes now on the bench. And then Jensen, Piakura, and Jaden Hunt. So let's talk about this team, right? Selwyn Cobbo is an interesting option. And look, we haven't had a lot of time to digest last round before jumping straight into this, but Cobbo scored 8 points last week. Really quiet game. Played a little bit of fullback last week when Walsh jumped to fullback, but overall was predominantly playing on the wing. So when it comes to Selwyn Cobbo, he's at a very cheap price. He'll sort of cover that fullback spot. Can you get your thoughts here, Monty? Do you think Selwyn Cobbo at fullback is someone you're going to look at, or do you think it's going to be a bit too much of a leap to jump onto?
I think it's just a bit too much of a leap, as what you said. We know, because I had a look at his stats quietly, and he has 2 games at fullback, and that's a 58 and an 18. So it's just too much of a risk at this time of the year, I reckon.
A 58 and an 18. So if you get those 58s, it'd be good, but if it's an 18, it's a bit dodgy.
18 is very risky.
We'll look at him as a pod anyway, because it's a difference maker, and he's a young guy, right? So, we saw a young Latrell Mitchell, for example, who had some similar traits, and it took some time to develop that endurance for fullbacks. So Cobbo at some point might be similar to that, but interesting option there. Then going through the list here, Dean Mariner comes in. If you're in a Supercoach draft league, I would look at Dean Mariner in general, because I think that wing spot at the Broncos is attractive, and he's a guy who can score a try. But for fantasy, I just don't think there's enough interest there. Going through the list, Tony Staggs, Shibasaki. So Shibasaki's one who you can probably look at selling if you're a Shibasaki owner. The thing is that score last week was pretty uninspiring. The Broncos are a little bit dodgy right now, and they have a matchup against the Dogs this week, which, the Dogs are shutting teams down. So I think Shibasaki is one you can sell, but we'll talk about him more in hold or sell. Going down the list, Ben Hunt's been getting cheap. If he goes to hooker at some point, he'll be interesting for us as well. Then Adam Reynolds, Carrigan, Walters, Haas. Payne Haas scored that 73 last week. Interesting thing for Haas is there was basically no negative stats on that score for him. So it was a 73 that was quite pure, not a lot of attacking stats either, just a game where he rocked up and he did the work and scored that 73. So you could consider him as an option this week. I think the Dogs are a matchup that don't offer heaps of attacking stats, but it's going to be a bit of a grind. It's going to be a battle, and the Broncos are going to be trying really hard to beat the Dogs here because they're 4-3. The record's not so good that they can rest guys, and they're going to need to dominate through the middle because the Dogs' one weakness is that they're a bit undersized through the middle. So that's where the Broncos are going to win. I would expect Payne Haas to have a big role, and I think Payne Haas is a genuine captain option this week. Possibly the number 1 captain, potentially as well. So that's an exciting one if you're a Payne Haas owner. Then going through, we've got, Ricky, Wilson. You can think about Wilson. I just don't think it's going to be that interesting because Piakura is going to come on, steal those minutes. If you're a Corey Pakes owner, I think he's a sell right now as well. So look, overall, bit of a pod in Cobbo. I like Haas as a captain, and I think all these cheapies that we have, Jesse Arthur's included, they're at the sell stage now too. Now, just before we do go to the questions, Monty, I just want to throw out a few shout-outs. So Starboy's here. Good to see you, mate. Top 100, man. Bro, Starboy, you've come the whole journey. I remember last year we were talking a bunch, and you're way further back than this. Jumping into 55th place, you're absolutely killing it. Starboy, if you guys are in the Discord, he's pretty active over there, so you can tag him. But he's also in our private group as well. So you've absolutely killed it, man. 55. I've got to take advice from you at this point. And then do we have anyone else in the house who I want to shout out? Dean, how's it going, mate? Hey. A-Dog, yo. You got Josh. Hello, mate. How you doing? Breaking Sydney. Week of Carnage. It's been absolutely crazy. And Chase Ryder with I Like Turtles. Good one to finish on. Now, Monty, throw me some questions. What's everyone asking about for the Broncos?
And now, obviously, there was a wing fullback that everyone bought in last week. He was very cheap. Reece Walsh.
Ooh.
What would you do with him if you have him?
I've heard a few people talk about holding him, and I just don't think you can. Like 4 to 6 weeks. I don't like that time frame. I will be targeting Reece Walsh for my team when he comes back. I'll definitely be looking at him. But for now, I think you probably pull the trigger and you sell him, unless you've already got other problems to deal with. But I think he's a sell at this point. And in round 13, we'll look at buying him at that point after the first buy.
And then we have a question from Hudson James. Is Pat Carrigan a hold or sell during Origin?
Paddy Carrigan is definitely a sell over the Origin period. So Queensland are pretty undersized when it comes to the forward battle compared to New South Wales. So they do get Tino back this year, but in general, they're missing Lindsay Collins there. They're missing Flegler as well. Like there's a few guys they normally lean on that they're not going to have. So I think Carrigan's going to play big minutes in Origin, and I think his minutes at Clubland will sort of drop back a bit with guys like Jensen. As well as Willison being super capable backups. So I would sell Carrigan for the Origin period, but there's no rush to do it. Like you can hold him for the next 4 weeks and then move it after that. But yeah, keep an eye on him as a sell option before Origin.
And we've got a couple of questions. You touched on it a bit. Shibasaki, what would you look to do with him?
Sell. Firm sell. He's capped out in price. He's done a great job for you. Time to move on.
And then obviously a couple people captaining Haas. Would you say touched on it, number one captain option this week?
At the moment, I mean, I'm going to look through all these teams, right? So I got to be honest, I haven't really reviewed the round that deeply because we didn't have Monday, right, this week. So I was filming a recap last night, and then I've been out on an island, doing a bunch of community work all day. So I actually haven't reviewed the round that deeply. So this is my first look, but I like this matchup, Broncos Dogs. I'm a big fan of this matchup. I think it's great for Haas, and I think he's a great captain option because they're going to be trying to create points. And what's that mean? That means Haas is going to be throwing offloads and trying to break tackles, and he can bust through a bunch of these tackles. Like we've seen Reed Marnie miss tackles. We've seen, Curran, even guys like Salmon and Kurt Mann, they're fantastic players, but they're undersized against Payne Haas. So he's going to be a focal point here. I think he has a massive game. Let's turn to the Dogs, though, because the Dogs are a fun one to talk about. And the Dogs are an interesting one because they play every major bye round. So through this period, when you're looking at the Bulldogs, and by the way, I'll just confirm quickly before we keep going, is my video coming through super clear here? I'm not cutting or anything like that?
Yeah, you haven't cut freezing every now and then, but otherwise you can hear you loud and clear, Longy.
All right. Well, apologies for that, guys. Again, I'm just out in the bush, so a little bit of internet issue. But if it's coming through clear sound-wise, then we're getting all the good information anyway. I sound better than I look. Now, for the Doggies here, we've got Connor Tracy at fullback. We have Karaz, Zeri, Crichton, and Montoya in the back line. Matty Burton and Sexton in the halves there. Going through to the forward pack, we've got King, Marnie, Curran, and then we go through to kick out Preston and Salmon. Bench here is Mann, Tupanua, Hayes, and Hayward. So this Doggy side here is interesting because they play every major bye round. So if they don't make Origin, then they're awesome guys to have through this period. Now, I'm going to talk about a few guys here that are really interesting. In particular, Jacob Karaz is looking like an elite center wing fullback dual position guy. So he's red hot. Matt Burton is underpriced right now. Red hot. He's definitely underpriced. He will jump in price. Max King is proving himself as a 60 average right now, which is just crazy. I do have some concerns, but I also am excited about him too. Going through, then you could make a case for guys like Kickow, but I say Jacob Preston is the more safe option there. Preston averaging about 60 points. He's one of the best back rowers in fantasy. And then really for the bench, I'm not super keen on anyone there. So when it comes to the Dogs and those players, Jacob Karaz is the first one we'll talk about here. Now, for Karaz, I'm a big Karaz fan. Like as a player, I think he's fantastic. He's a bruising back rower. Yep, Charlie's asked the question. A lot of you guys have. But he's a back row. He's a bruising outside back. He's a guy who runs hard. He offloads. He breaks tackles, and he makes his own luck. Dogs are playing better this year too, so that helps him a lot as well. Now for Karaz, my concern is that if I was selecting the team for the Blues, I would be selecting Jacob Karaz. And I'll throw it at you. Zach Lomax is missing game one. The concept of the Blues walking into Origin with Terrell May and Payne Haas there in the front row, right? And then having, Isaiah Yeo locking down that lock spot, but those big bruising props there. And then you're starting your sets with Brighton To'o, Dylan Edwards, and Jacob Karaz. That is a terrifying prospect. The Blues will camp inside the red zone of the Maroons if they do that strategy. So I'm looking at that, I'm going, you know what? It's probably Jacob Karaz's wing spot to lose. So he may miss that first major bye round. That is a compliment to him, and it's great for his fantasy scores. But it hurts you because in round 12, you're not going to have Jacob Karaz, and he has those buys through the other periods as well. So that's not the best for you there. The other options at wing are pretty light. Like there's Josh Adokar, who had a fantastic game on the weekend, but is he going to get picked over Karaz? Is a bit younger. a bit more physical as well, which really suits the Blues play style. And then there's probably a few other options you could look at, but they're mostly playing guys out of position. So my concern with Kiraz is he plays Origin, and that's all just because it's hype about him. Like, he's playing so well. So everything that makes him a good buy also makes him an Origin threat, which could be dicey for your fantasy team. So personally, I'm going to avoid Kiraz until round 11, round 12, when we have that confirmation. But if you love him, you can go and do it. It just is risky. Second option here, Matty Burton. And these guys have a similar case in my mind. If I was selecting the Blues side, I would be picking Matt Burton on the team 100%. And I think he's the perfect 14. I've had this rant before. He's Dally M Center of the Year previously. He's a great number 6. He's a great number 7. We have centers that we usually play like Latrell there, right? So Latrell could cover fullback if Burton came on at center. And we've got Critter who can play on the wing, or Latrell could do that as well. So it really is genuine 1-7 coverage. And you throw in the fact that Matt Burton's a big body, and he's a guy who could play 13 as well. So when it comes to Matt Burton, I'd be picking Matt Burton, and I'd probably be picking Connor Watson as well, and just running, Watson as that explosive impact guy at lock, but also that backup hooker too. Because I think we have enough minute eaters in the forward pack that we could cover those two players there. So Matt Burton, that's the risk with Burton. That's the one risk. Everything else is good. But the one risk with Burton is that he makes Origin. The other thing I'll flag is Sexton had more kick meters than Burton this week. So maybe the fact that Sexton was so good while Burton was out could mean he plays a more dominant role, which does hurt Burton's scoring. But in that game, what we saw was Matt Burton dominated on the ground, and he was just playing that aggressive, attacking, running 6 role, and he ran like 200 meters in that game. So if he's playing that role plus some kicking, then I don't mind it at all. But it's just something to keep an eye on, that it's a bit more of an even balance between those two, or maybe it was just him coming back from injury. So that's what I'd throw at you there. I saw Zilla came through with that question. So I'll jump to Preston here because he's asked the question, should that logic apply to Jacob Preston? Yes and no. So Preston's playing good footy, 100%. He is definitely one who could jump in, but I think he's got more hurdles to make the Blues side. So when I look at the Blues side, I think, all right, Liam Martin is going to be in the team 100%. Best case scenario, if you're trying to get Preston into the team, you might move Martin to the bench and play him as a middle forward. But Martin's going to be on the edge. He has been man of the match in that spot, and he will dominate there. Gus Crichton last year did not let us down. He will be in the Blues side as well. So there's your starting back rows, right? They're both fully fit right now. Crichton had that groin issue last week. He's back this week. They are both good to go. Then you throw in Hudson Young, who is playing like the best player in the comp right now. I would say he's the guy who's the next up second rower in that bench spot, 18th man, or if one of them gets hurt. And you throw in Ola Kawatu too, whose play style I think lends itself better to 25 minutes, 30 minutes off the bench than Preston's does. So I look at that sort of string of players, and I think Preston is much less likely to be in the team, but he is definitely a chance as well. So if I was panning this out, I would say Kiraz is like a 70% chance, Burton is like a 25% chance, and Preston's like a 5% chance. That's kind of how I see it. So it's true for Preston. It's less true. So I jumped on Preston last week, and I think he's a good option right now. And then the last one here, Max King. He's the other one to talk about. King won't make the Origin side. I'm pretty confident of that. We've just got such good depth in the forward pack. And yeah, he's a cracking pod. He's an absolutely cracking pod. For Max King, the upside is that game we saw, right? So he had 30 plus tackles, 200 meters plus run. He had the try as well. He doesn't really score tries, so I wouldn't factor that in at all. But for Max King, I don't know. I worry a little bit about him. Like, I think he's a good option, and he's pumping out that average. That's that 59 average. But I worry a bit about Curran going back into the prop rotation, because right now you look at this team here, and if Reed Marnie is getting a rest, then it's okay. Like, if Reed Marnie goes back to being a 50-minute hooker, which is what we saw last week, then there are minutes on offer for Max King. But if Reed Marnie plays 80 minutes, you got Preston and Kickout who play 80 minutes most likely as well. Then Jamin Salmon and Kurt Mann, they interchange. And it means that you have Tupanua, Hayes, and Hayward who are all coming on for middle minutes. So how many minutes does King play? We've seen him play 48, 50 minutes a few times this year. We've seen that 60-minute role. We'd want that 60-minute role from him. And I think at full strength, he drops back to 55 minutes. Now, he's been pumping out 1.2 ppm. So that still will be enough for 60. I just think there is a little bit of risk that Max King could be someone who, loses some minutes at some point. That's the one thing I'm thinking about there. But I do think he's a good option. I just worry a bit there. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. Question about Turbo there as well. I think Turbo would be at the center spot or the fullback spot and wouldn't be on the wing. He's been in form before and not been picked on the wing, so I don't think he's really a contender for the wing spot. I think Kraz is probably that guy. Do you have any other questions about the Dogs here, Monty?
Yes, we do. We have one or two questions on Bronson Sherry.
Mm-hmm.
Would you consider him at all?
Is he scoring well? Like everything I've seen of him has been sort of mediocre.
He's averaging 38.5 this year. He's very a bit of Stafford type, very try reliant and 500k.
Yeah.
It's an awkward price.
Yeah, no, he's not scoring well enough to be better than the cheapies, right? So just wait for cheapies, basically. I've got guys like Tamale in my team, Stafford Toa, like you said. Kautonga wasn't good last week, but I wouldn't be trading Kautonga for Zeri. Like, nah, I don't think he's worth jumping onto.
I have a question on Connor Tracy as a pot option.
Yeah, this is interesting. This is actually interesting. So at fullback, he does have runs where he gets hot. Do you think he's going to get hot? Is the question, I guess. Matt Burton back definitely helps. It would be a big pod. Like it would be a mega pod for you to do this, and you're really picking based on sort of predicted form. So, from my perspective, I'm going to say no. But if you really like the pod and you think the Dogs are going to light it up and attack, then you could jump on this.
And you touched on it before. Reid Marnie, would you look to move him on?
Yeah, the 55 minutes was a bit of a disaster. He's getting pretty cheap right now, so there's probably a case you could make to keep him on the watch list. And if you were desperate, you could hold him this week and see what happens. But those rotations we talked about, like there are going to be some guys who get less minutes now. And if it's Reid Marnie, that's good news for Max King. If it's Max King, that's good news for Reid Marnie. We just kind of want to see how this shakes out. So I think he's a sell.
And then I've got a question for you personally. With Burton back last week, would you look to bring him in if he doesn't goal kick?
That's hard.
You saw last week.
Bit of a drop off in points. Yeah, I would say he will goal kick. I would say it'll get back to him. It's similar to Mitch Moses, for example. Like Sean Russell started goal kicking. Moses coming back from that injury. Burton will goal kick. He's been too classy and too clutch with that role, and I think he'll want that role himself because when a game's on the line, Burton is one of those guys who wants to have the ball in his hand.
And I've just got this one more question from Kieran. Who would you buy first, King or Preston?
I went Preston last week personally, but have a look at your team. Look at what you need. I'm probably leaning towards Preston in general. I think Preston is like they're both averaging 59 points. Preston's 59.5, but I would say Preston is more genuine of a top tier at his position than King is. And I think there is a risk we see King sort of fade back to that low 50s area, just with the depth of the Dogs right now. Whereas I think Preston is more likely to lock in that role. So that's where I'm leaning, but they're both great options. Let's keep rolling through here. And I saw a few Pia Kura questions. He's obviously the GOAT, but the issue with Pia Kura is he'll make the origin side. So, you're kidding, by the way. If anyone's new, that's a sort of running gag. Let's keep going through here. So we got the Roosters and the Dragons. And remember, guys, the questions coming through, try to ask those questions about the Roosters and Dragons. We'll hit those ones up as we go through. And at the very end, we do those trade questions too. So those specific trade questions. If you do want a this or that kind of question, though, I don't mind that, like an A or B, Monty. I don't mind letting those through, but let's keep rolling through here. So Chooks v Dragons. And for the Chooks, we have Tedesco at fullback. We have Tupou. Billy Smith is back in. Rob Toya and Wani Tawase takes the wing spot. Dom Young is out of the team completely. Big move there. Then we've got Sandon Smith and Hugo Savala. Going through to the forward pack, we have Lenu, Watson, White. And then we go through to Gus Crichton, Sua Wong, and Victor Radley. Interchange is Doc Clay, Fiketti, Steep, and Butcher. So when we're looking at this Chooks team here, a few things to look at first. Tedesco is one who a lot of people were really interested in last week, and a lot of people jumped on. And the thing I've been saying about him all along is I love Tedesco. I think he's having a fantastic individual season, but he's not being gifted any free plays by the Roosters, and he's having to work very hard for his 50-point games. Now, what we saw last week was a game where the work rate stuff didn't quite come through. It was about 120 run meters, less tackle breaks as well. And I look at Tedesco and I sort of go, all right, no tries this year. We're at round 8 now. 0 tries this year. You've got no line breaks since about round 2, I believe it is. So he's not getting those free attacking stats. And Tedesco's playing good. He looks good. I love him as a player. I think he's a great bloke in general. But just not there for fantasy. You don't want a fullback who's having to work so hard for his points. So I personally am not jumping on Tedesco, and I do think there is origin risk with him as well. If Dylan Edwards was, say, out of form or picked up an injury or something like that, which he already has this year. So I wouldn't be jumping on Teddy myself. He hasn't been recommended yet, but maybe round 11, round 12 is when I'd look at Tedesco. Going through the list here, Billy Smith is sort of at that price already. Rob Toya, hold him for sure. Toya's averaging 40 points in his first try last week, so I love that. Yeah, long-term hold, 100%. Look, he's not a superstar at the center spot, but he's a guy who's pumping out that 40 average, and he has a great origin schedule. So Toya, I think he's quite reliable. Like, his bad games are a 25-point game. That's fine with me. That's good. And this matchup against the Dragons is good too. They can leak some points. So I'll be probably starting Rob Toya this week. Noani Tuase on the wing is definitely a hold at this point as well. And we flagged him as one who should cook Luke Garner. He did cook Luke Garner, and then Garner went off and his scoring slowed down a bit. But Tungo came back on and actually slowed things down, which was, I guess, good for Tungo to see him back in form, but not good for Noani Tuase. Hugo Savala is the most rock solid, stable 33 to 35 point scorer. His stats didn't deviate at all. So I'm going to throw this at you guys. 500 kick meters last week, 478 the week before. He had 22 meters run last week. He had 24 meters run the week before. 24 tackles both weeks. 3 missed tackles both weeks. Like, it was basically identical stat lines. And I look at him and I think, all right, he's taking that dominant role there. The attack will come. I think he's going to get more confident and his running game will come out because he can do that. And he has shown that in reserve grade. So I think it's up and up for him. So 230K, yeah, for sure. Cash out. I think he's a goer. It's like not a big rush. Monty, do you know his break even by any chance for Savala?
I'll have a look now quickly. I think it's... Have a quick look.
Yeah, have a look. But his break even is not going to be disastrously low. Like, my guess, it's going to be around what you're than that. So I think 13, now is the time.
As of right now.
It's 13. Much lower. Okay. Is that on Footy Statistics or?
That's on the NRL Fantasy Coach.
So beautiful. Okay, that's low then. Yeah, that's low. Yeah, jump on Savala then. Yep, 100%. I was going to say yes anyway, but that's even more of a yes. He's pretty much a must-have at this point. So 230K, that's awesome to have. Get on Savala. Going through the rest of the team, Sandon Smith, you can sell him now. I'm cool with that. That's absolutely fine. We've seen everything we need to see. And then going through the forward pack, we have Lenu, Watson, White, Crichton, Wong, Radley. So Crichton comes back. Lenu's in the starting side here as well. We saw Nat Butcher go out in this game in the 10th minute. If you've got Nafahu White, we did say he was a hold last week. I'm going to hold by that. I think through the origin period now, we're that close to origin that you stick with him. But I'll tell you what, the first 20 minutes injuries just happen over and over and over again. And last week it was Gus Crichton pulling out late and then Nat Butcher pulling out, 10 minutes into the game. So we saw Nafahu White get 65 minutes instead of the usual 50. His PPM was a bit below 1, so it was a lucky break that he got those minutes, but keep rolling with him. He's getting the job done for you 100%. Gus Crichton, look, you stick with him if you have him now, but think about selling him soon. When they miss their buy round in round 10, that's probably when you do it, because he'll miss round 10, he'll miss round 12 for Origin, and they have some dodgy buys through the Origin period too. Sil Wong, stick with him. The 80 minutes is great, right? The 80 minutes is great, so you definitely stick with Wong. And then a big question coming through here about Watson in the buy round. I don't think that you need to move Watson on right now. I just think that the Blues have a new coach in place. Connor Watson was good last year. I love Connor Watson. I think he's a great player. The Roosters are struggling a bit. I don't think Watson is guaranteed to make the Origin side. Like, I would pick him in my Origin side, but I just don't think it's a full-on guarantee. So if you've got Connor Watson, you potentially have a guy who is one of the best players through the Origin period because he averages about 60 points, right? So I'd be sticking with Connor Watson if I had him. And if I don't have Connor Watson, right? And I've kind of hated not having him. I think he's a weapon. I'll think about buying him in round 12 if he doesn't make the Origin team. So yeah, stick with Connor Watson. Hold on to him. See what happens. Wait for that Origin team to be announced. That's the big question there. And that's going to tell you what happens there. So I would stick with Connor Watson 100%. Going through the rest here, Victor Radley might get cheap enough at some point to consider. Probably a few more weeks away, but I've got my eyes on him 100%. And then for the rest of the team, the bench, I've got really no interest. Egan Butcher does come back. It's not great news for the minutes of the starters, I will say. Egan Butcher coming back because it'll be Egan Butcher, Nat Butcher, and then Fiketti or Steep, one of them will stay in the team as well. and Egan and Nat both steal a few more minutes as well. So that could be bad news for Saw Wong, but I wouldn't react until we've seen it firsthand. Are there any other questions there for the Roosters before I jump to the Dragons, Monty?
We do. So obviously the Roosters have their bye coming up soon. Would you buy Savala if you had 4 Roosters already, or would you look to
That's hard.
look
That's
elsewhere?
hard. It depends what Roosters you have. So you could sell Roosters who are playing Origin at that round 10 point, but that's guys like Gus Crichton. Spencer Leniu is pretty much guaranteed as well. There's not that many. Probably not. 5 Roosters is too much. Unless you sell one of those Roosters, though. Like, I'm guessing that you probably have Sandon Smith is one of your Roosters. In that case, you could maybe move Sandon to Hugo Savala, and then you probably want to sell another Rooster as well. So maybe Gus or someone like that. It is a bit tricky though, but I think you want Savala in general. Like, I think he's just going to get better and better as we go along. So I'm going to say yes, but try to sell a couple of those Roosters and try to get that number down to 3 or 4 at most.
If you didn't have Marky Mark, would you look to bring him in this week?
Yes, if Mark, maybe on the wing. They're just not creating that much attack. That's my worry with the Roosters. Like there's not that many attacking opportunities. So I probably wouldn't be jumping on him. Yeah, their wingers haven't been scoring a ton of tries. So probably not. But I do think he'll be good. I think he's a bit undervalued. So if you do like him and you think the Roosters are going to heat up, you can jump on. But I personally wouldn't do it. I think there's not quite enough value for it.
We have a couple people concerned with Egan Butcher on the bench. Do you think Egan Butcher will eat into Wong's minutes at all?
Well, Nat Butcher's out now. So for this week, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But I think in future, we're going to see Wong not play 80 minutes. But then we enter the Origin period where Gus Crichton will be playing Origin. So he'll miss 3 Roosters games in about 8 weeks. So through that period, Wong will go back to 80 minutes. And there's also going to be games where Gus Crichton's backing up. So Saw Wong will probably play 80 minutes in those games too. So I think overall, you're okay with Saw Wong. Until you see the problem, I wouldn't try to preempt it. I think just ride the wave with Saw Wong. And, if you have a Roosters player, there's always an injury every 20 minutes or so. So, just hope it's not your player. And I hope you benefit from that.
And now, if you had both Savala and Sandon Smith, who would you look to loop this week out of one of them?
For Savala, Sand, and Smith, I think Savala is probably safer, but Sand's got that upside. I would probably go Savala because I think he's putting out that sort of mid-30s base there. And if you throw in some attacking stats or a bit of that running game, then he has the potential to go to 50 points. Whereas Sandon, we've kind of seen that ceiling, and we've seen him score, 45 points in a game where he has a try and a try assist. So I'd probably jump on Savala as my loophole with that potential to go higher.
That's all the questions for the Roosters. Now, plenty of questions on the Dragons, though.
All right, let's get into it. I might just read the list and give thoughts, and then I'll jump straight to questions with you, mate. So, Dragons, we got Gutherson, Sloan, Sully, Holmes for now. For now is an exciting one, by the way. Then we have Flanagan and Ilias there. Toby Couchman comes in at the prop spot with Dave Clemmer next to him. We got Cook at hooker. Luciano, Sewer, and DeBellin is the back row. That's what they've named right now. It's not what it's going to be on game day. And then we have Little, Laurie, Gula, and the GOAT, the legend himself, Dylan Egan. Yeah, man, he's been an absolute killer. Now, I'll throw it to you first here, Monty. Give me some questions here. What are people thinking about for the Dragons? And I'm keen to get your opinions here too.
And now, obviously, someone I bought in quite a while ago. Is it too late to grab Couchman if you've missed out at him? He's now at just north of 700k. If you missed out, would you look to get him?
He's expensive, yeah. Oh, I mean, and the follow-up question is, could you captain him? A few people are asking as well. Couchman, it's late. I'll throw to you, Monty, here. Did you watch the game last week?
I was at the game. I was at the game last week.
How did he look at the game? Like, because you saw... Oh, yeah, because you're a Manly fan, of course. You saw Manly get decimated yet again.
Let's not talk.
Man, how bad a Manly. But no, you saw Couchman in action. Did that knee look good? Like, off the ball? Was he looking good to you?
There were a couple moments where he'd get out of tackles and, he'd slow to get up or whatnot, but it didn't look like it affected him. Like, he still just tackled like he's a tackle bot, I call him. He just doesn't stop tackling. And I feel like he's got the tick of approval to offload as well. We've seen he's increased his offload to 2 or 3 offloads a game, and that line break helped a lot as well. And he just seems to be the Dragons' number one middle forward at the moment, by the looks of it. So
he's the guy, 100%. DeBellin's minutes have dropped off as well. So yeah, I think he's the guy. Yeah, because that's my one concern, right? That's why I was sort of not recommending him as much last week. He looked really injured a couple of weeks ago, and he looked fine to me last week. So I think you have to have a look at it. Question here from Trent as well. Very thoughtful question here, Trent. Does Gula eat Couchman's minutes? Obviously, Gula's been out the last 3 weeks suspended. Potentially. Now, there is one risk here that is real, by the way. But the fact that they play so early in the round means it's probably not that big a deal. There is the risk that they go with the strategy they were running with at the start of the year, and they start Clemmer and Gula, and they move Couchman to the bench. Couchman's played a lot of minutes recently. He's a young guy. It is genuinely a thing that could happen. Would I do it if I was coach? Probably not. I think Couchman's that guy who can play big minutes, but that's what they were doing at the start of the year. They were running lesser middle forwards for 20 minutes. You know, we saw Laurie play that role as well. Laurie could be the one who does it instead of Gula. Like, that's what they've been doing a bit. So if you're trading for Couchman, make sure you trade someone who plays after him and who is more expensive than him, or is a trade that you can reverse. So that's the big thing there. I'm going to say yes, though. It's okay to buy Couchman. I don't think he makes the Origin team. He's still probably a bit underpriced if he plays this role, but if he doesn't start, I would reverse the trade, right? So only as a starter do I think he's a buy. If he's on the bench, then it means they're trying to manage that workload a bit, and they're probably going to drop him back to sort of 55, 60 minutes, where, I mean, with his current PPM, he'll still score 65 points, but you just don't like him as much at that level. So if he's a starter, I think he's a good buy this week. Dual position, you got to bite the bullet. It's one that has just gotten better and better and better. So yeah, Toby Couchman, I'm going to say yes, he's a buy if he's starting.
And obviously, they've done it the past 2 weeks. Egan's named on the bench, switches into start. If he is named on the bench, would you start him in your scoring 17?
If he's named on the bench, if he's starting, if he's the water boy, I don't care, man. This guy Dylan Egan is unstoppable. I love Dylan Egan. I want to get Dylan Egan on the show, actually. If anyone knows Dylan Egan, hit him up. I want to talk to him because he's a fantasy goat right now. So Dylan Egan, yeah. If he plays 50 minutes, he scores you 45 points. If he plays the 80, he sort of moderates his work rate a bit more. But yeah, I think he's a locked-in starter for me. The upside is there as well. He's just an absolute beast. And I look at the Dragons here as well, and they just beat Manly, who, you know, some people consider a premiership threat. I think they're a bit of a punching bag. I'm just saying that to piss you off now, Monty. But they just beat the Dragons with the strategy of starting Egan, playing big minutes, Egan. So I think they're going to keep that going this week. The risk for him, though, is he doesn't get the full game. So I think he still starts, but I think the fact that they've got, you know, Igula back as well, it's going to eat into some of those middle minutes. And I think maybe his minutes will be moderated a bit more. He might drop back to sort of 60, 65 minutes instead. I don't think that affects his scoring too much. I think he's a guy you can trust for 40 points, so I'd still start him.
And then thoughts on Finau on that wing? We saw him in the charity match. He scored 4 tries, playing outside Val Holmes. I think it's a 3-week play with Tuipulotu out. Would you have any thought of him?
That's a hard one. It's a good wing. It's a good wing. We've seen it's a good wing. They're feeding their wingers a bunch of tries. Even Tyrell Sloan is killing it on the wing, which you wouldn't have believed that if you told someone that at the start of the year. For him, it's a tough one because I'm looking at him right now. He's got that 8-point game for 23 minutes, right? So that doesn't start your break even off in a good direction. That's a drop of 20K last week. He's 330K. He's not 230K, 250K, and he doesn't play round 12, which would have been a chance with Val Holmes going out, right, for Origin potentially. It's just not attractive enough. If there were a team that were loaded up with Origin players in the back line, I'd definitely think about it. But I just think at that price, it's a bit too risky. The Roosters haven't been bad defensively either. Like, they're not leaking points on the wings. So I personally don't think he's an option, really. I think I'd skip him. But at the same time, I wouldn't be shocked at all if he scores well. Like, I think it's a good wing to play on. I think he's a talented player. It's funny watching him in that Charity Shield game too. He got the 4 tries, then went off with a cramp like 36 minutes in. So he just got his work done. He was efficient, and then he went home basically. But yeah, I personally wouldn't be jumping on. I think it's too short term for something that doesn't make sense mathematically and price wise.
Now, Hamish Stewart, another cheapie, is missing a week again with the HIA cut ties with him.
Gone. Played like no minutes last week. PPM was fantastic, but yeah, he was already sort of fading back. He was on our sell list last week. He's definitely a sell again this week. They don't play round 12. They don't have really guys who make Origin except for Jaden Sewer. So yeah, pretty firm sell.
Now, this is a this or that question from Casanova. Max King or Couchman?
King plays around 12. That's good. Couchman is better. Like his ceiling is better. King scored that try. King will not score tries. I would be surprised if King scored another try this year, right? But I'd probably say Couchman. Dual position's attractive as well. Couchman's price is sort of rising. I would say Couch is a pretty safe option there. Yeah. So I'm going to say Couchman, but King's a good option too.
Now, final questions for the. Just one more question for the Dragons. Jack DeBellin, he's losing minutes. He's getting a bit cheap. Is there any world where you'd consider him over the next couple of weeks?
The only case you could make for Jack DeBellin is a case against Toby Couchman. So you tell me why Toby Couchman's going to drop back to 40 to 50 minutes a week, and I'll entertain DeBellin. But no one can make a case for that. There is no case for that. So I'm going to say no. I think it's an inverse relationship where if Couchman does well, DeBellin does poorly. And for DeBellin to get good, Couchman's going to need to fall off, which I don't see happening. So I'm going to say a pretty firm no to Jack DeBellin. Also, he burned me last year through the Origin period. In fact, that was an interesting one. I just want to mention that Jack DeBellin and Max King, I had both of them through the Origin period last year, and they sort of dropped back into not quite being keeper level middle forwards and scoring a lot of those sort of 40 to 45 scores in 50 minutes. That's my concern. They've done it before. They could do it again. That's where I'm watching these minutes rotations. I just don't trust guys who are not quite full-blown keepers. So with Max King, you could argue he's turned the corner. I think he's fully fit this year. I think that's the difference. That's why I'm all for it. But DeBellin, I see nothing there. So skip him for sure. Frost King as well. I just saw you mentioned it. Frosty was top 10 last year, and even he fell for it. JDB burnt my season, held to the end. I remember we were DMing about it last year when you were sitting in like third place, and you were like, you know what, I'm going to keep him as a pod. And I was just like, oh, mate, I hate him. Get rid of him. Sack him. And you're stuck with him. But then, you came third. So, well, top 10 anyway. So you definitely have a few more wins than I did. Now, jumping through, we've got the Warriors and the Knights up here. For the Warriors and the Knights, we've got, we'll go Warriors team first. So CNK comes back in. Rocco Berry's back in as well. And Kurt Capewell goes back to the back row. So that's pretty noteworthy. I'll talk about that in a sec. But fullback is Nickel Clockstad. We have Tuapiki, Berry, Leia Tower, and Pompey in the back line. Harris Tavita and Metcalf in the halves. We've got Jackson Ford, Wade Egan, Mitch Barnett in the front row. Capewell, Niokore, Aaron Clark in the back row. Then Halasima, Afoa, Valmarga, and Laban on the bench. Now, my question is, I'm just trying to think. Last week, Wade Egan didn't play 80 minutes. Who came on for Wade Egan and played hooker? Who did they have at hooker last week? I'm just trying to remember. Tamari Martin played like no minutes. Did he come on at hooker?
No, I think Martin did come on for Egan in that period he was off.
Or was it someone else that came on? I thought they had a couple of utilities. It was a really strange rotation. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head, but here we go. So a few people in the comments here are saying it. CHT played hooker. There we go. I'm just trying to remember what happened there. So Harris Tavita played hooker. We saw Tamari Martin come on. That was really good for the forward rotations, right? So if you had a forward, I would say that your forward minutes were inflated by about 5 minutes last week as a result of that, right? Because they were carrying essentially a dead player on their bench that didn't really eat into forward minutes. So we come into this week and we have some challenges. So first things first is Capewell goes back into the back row. He was covering the center spot, right? Nickel Clockstad comes back at fullback. But Capewell going back to the back row pushes Halasima back to the bench. We're also seeing, Afoa, Valmarga, and Laban there as well, who's a forward too. So my concern here is the minutes are going to be stretched a bit more this week. The other thing to look at here is Jackson Ford played 65 minutes last week. Now, I don't know about that. I mean, look, he played the 65 minutes. They beat the Broncos. So again, when I look at these things, I sort of think, all right, are they going to do it again this week? Like, is that going to be a strategy they maintain? the fact they beat the Broncos makes me think they might keep doing what they did. So Jackson Ford could play big minutes again. Honestly, Jackson Ford's a bit of a pod, and he's not a sexy pod at all. But he played the 65 minutes. He scored the 55 points. Monty, from a scale of 1 to 10, how hot are you on Jackson Ford here?
Jackson Ford, I remember when he was a real cheapie. The real cheapie was gun. So I've got a soft spot for him. Hot on Jackson Ford. He hasn't crossed my mind until you said it, and now that you're saying it, I mean, he's getting me excited now. It's getting me excited. I want to go back to 2022 and enjoy that Jackson Ford time again.
You're getting pumped up. I'll try to convince you. But look, 595K. It's a good price point. The 55 points last week was made up of 46 tackles, 3 tackle breaks, 151 run meters, and he had some negatives in there too. He had the 2 missed tackles. He had 3 errors and a penalty. So minus 12 there. That could have bumped him up to a 67. Right. So for Jackson Ford, had a HIA too that he passed. There's a bit there, like he might just randomly be an 80-minute player. And the follow-up question I have then is, why is that not Mitch Barnett? And I can't answer that question for you. So that I find it very hard to buy guys where I wouldn't give them the role that I'm forecasting for them. So if you want a pod, I don't hate that Ford pod, but yeah, Lance mentioned it here. He is only edge forward eligible. So that's the unattractive part. If he was middle forward eligible, I'd be talking about it a lot. The other option here is Aaron Clark in that forward rotation as well. So Aaron Clark, 2 weeks ago, scored 62 points in about 45 minutes. That was great. He showed he can score points. It doesn't change my mind there as much. The big thing I saw last week was he played 60 minutes and he scored the 52, I think it was. So for that, I like the 60 minutes for Aaron Clark. And if Clark gets minutes, he's an accumulator. Like he runs the ball 150 meters a game. He makes his tackles. A lot of you guys are asking. I think Aaron Clark is a red hot option. Plays round 12 as well. Covers hooker, covers mid, but mid is the tough spot. Because have a look at your team. Like seriously, whack your team up right now. Have a look at it. And you tell me how many mids you have who are playing round 12 who don't play Origin. And you can't count Isaiah Yeo, Corey Horsburgh, Terrell May, Payne Haas. Like all these guys. I'm forecasting them for Origin. You might have Jermaine Hopgood. He's a chance at Origin. I don't think he's going to make the team with the strange role he has at Parramatta right now. But the Origin risk for middle forwards is massive this year. Like we are all cooked. So Aaron Clark, I'm a massive fan of. I'll probably be buying Aaron Clark at this point. Then rolling through, and guys, there's a couple of people sort of spamming questions. Just relax, take a breath, send your question once. Monty earmarks them for later, and he brings them up. So if you spam it, you definitely won't get answered. If you just chill out, you'll definitely get answered. Now, for the rest of the Warriors team, are there any other questions on the Warriors? Because I think that's pretty solid. I mean, Halasima is one I can talk about if people want to talk about that.
Yeah, plenty of questions around Halasima. What would you do? People wondering, if he's back on the bench, do we keep him still, or what would you do if you owned Halasima?
I love Halasima, man. How can you not like this guy? Like, just from a pure footy perspective, he's so good. He jumps onto the wing, like he plays at center, in the back row. Like he makes massive plays. Like as an attacking footballer, if I was the head of Parramatta right now, I'd be offering him whatever the hell we offered Isaiah Papali'i 5 years ago and saying, you've got a starting spot, come to Parramatta right now. Because what the Warriors did, and the Warriors fans are getting annoyed at me here, but they went and recruited from England a back rower, right? Which I think is a bit of a slap in the face of Halasima as the future of the club. So I think the Warriors need to prove to him that he should stay. And I think he should be getting minutes in this team. Now, does he get minutes in the back row or is he in part of the middle forward rotation? That's probably the big question there. I think he's probably going to get the minutes in the back row. I think the performance last week, it earned him some minutes. So what you're looking at here is you're looking at a guy who has all the talent in the world, who I think is fantastic, who plays in a team that, the Warriors play a tough, aggressive forward style, and there's plenty of points on offer for their back rowers. So he's in a good situation there, but he just is not in the right role. So personally, if I had Halasima, I'd give him 1 or 2 weeks, and I'd probably wait a bit longer even than that. As long as his scores are okay, put up with it till round 12, because there is that chance that maybe Capewell's in the Queensland team and he gets to start again. I don't know, maybe there's an injury, maybe Niokore goes into the middle forward rotation to make space for him. Like, there's a few things they could do. I mean, if I ran the Warriors personally, I would play Halasima on the edge and I would move Niokore into the middle. That's what I'd do, but I'm not the Warriors coach, so, don't take too much, don't give that too much weight. But I just think Halasima is too talented to let go of at this stage. So stick with him, hold him for a few weeks, see what happens. We'll come back to it next week and the week after. But I just think he's awesome. I think he's absolutely awesome. So yeah, you want guys like that in your team. Oh, Monty, you're on mute, mate.
Sorry, no more questions for the Warriors, but plenty of questions on a certain Knights edge player.
I'll just touch on Vi Malga because I guess we're a couple on him, but I think he's a bit less exciting. The minutes weren't that good. So 35 minutes last week. His price has sort of gone up a bit. He was attractive at 277k. I think he's a bit expensive now. Now we can jump across to the Knights. So Knights team, and I'll just throw to questions because I think I know what everyone wants to talk about, but I'll let everyone ask. So for the Knights, we have Ponga, Schiller, Gagai, Best, and Marzu as the back five. Sharp and Gamble in the halves. Then we have Frizzell, Cross, and Thompson in the front row. And oh, look at this. Jersey number 11, Dylan Lucas. Also a contender for that Blues jersey. Sure, if you guys mentioned that before, for sure he's a contender for that spot. Kai Pearce-Paul, who killed it last week too. Then Matt Croker at lock. Surprising to me, if I'm being transparent. Then we got Brayley, Thompson, Cant, and Jones on the bench. Now, there's a few things I want to talk about here with Knights. I'm surprised that Cant isn't the starting lock, but Matt Croker played well last week, so maybe he is that guy. I think Thomas Cant will play good minutes at lock. Now, I'll talk about Cant when we get asked about him, but that's one thing I'm going to raise there. Second thing is Newcastle's attack was somewhat better. Not really, though. Like, it wasn't really structurally better. But the one thing they did right last week was they gave a bit of early ball to Bradman Best and to Greg Marzu on that edge, and those guys were absolute bulldozers. So we saw Greg Marzu set up the try there for Sharp, but we also saw there was a try called back for an obstruction where Bradman Best created a play for Fletcher Sharp too. So that left edge is going to come good. Like I'm going to say that with fair certainty, right? So if I had Bradman Best or Greg Marzu or Fletcher Sharp, ride the wave with those guys. I think they're probably not. I'm not going to target Best or Marzu, but I think Sharp is a good target this week. So we can talk about him if he comes up as well. And I think Dylan Lucas changes the game on that edge too. But let's throw the questions here, Monty. Just fire away. We can go from 1 to 17 because I think there's going to be a lot of guys to talk about with the Knights.
Obviously, Dylan Lucas does sound good. Does the hammy scare you if you're looking to pick him up this week?
Return game from a hamstring with a back row who was very capable as his replacement sitting on the bench is the least appealing thing I've ever heard in my life. So, yeah, no, I'm not going to be getting Dylan Lucas this week, but you can think about it over the next couple of weeks. I probably wouldn't do it before round 12 just because he's a chance at making the Origin team. So he is flexible enough to play at center. Like if they go Connor Watson as their utility, then you probably carry a guy like Lucas who's a capable backup center. So I would say no to Lucas right now. But by the way, sorry, he's a mega pod. So if you want to pod up. He's talented as hell.
Now, Kalen Ponga, what would you do with him? A couple of 37, bit disappointing. What would you do if you've continually held him for this time?
You stick with him, and 4-round average is 29.5. So you're not happy about it, but you stick with him. Dylan Lucas, there's a correlation between Ponga's scoring with and without Lucas. So you could make a case that helps. I think the correlation is a bit coincidental. I don't think it's actually a clear cut. Dylan Lucas makes Ponga 20 points better. I think it's a bit silly to think it's that, but it's definitely a little bit of a correlation there. So he definitely helps. But in general, I think Ponga's just too good to continue doing what he's doing. And what's his price now? Like he's down to like 600k, isn't he?
Is he really cheap? The price there, I'm trying to get
606. Yeah, lost 50k last week, 38 points. Like you ride the wave. You ride the wave because the involvement last week was good, like 173 run meters. Sorry, 184 run meters there. He had some tackle breaks as well. You know, the 5 missed tackles don't help, but yeah, you stick with Ponga, 100%. Like he's a guy who he's playing for his Origin jersey at this point, which it's crazy that he has to play for that jersey with the injuries they have in Queensland. But yeah, he's going to have to step up, and I think he was getting some better ball last week. It wasn't perfect, but I think they're going to fix that up.
Now, Thomas Cant, would you continue to hold him off the bench for a week just to see what his minutes are like?
Yeah. A few of you guys in the comments mentioned this too. Cant may end up being the starting lock. Like Cant was the lock in the preseason. Like he wasn't the lock for the Newcastle Knights all preseason, but he was one of the locks they train with in the preseason. So I think he's viewed as a lock. Yeah, there we go. Zilla's mentioned it. He was viewed as a lock originally. And when I asked the Knighted this like 2 weeks ago, so he's a diehard Newcastle fan. You might have seen it. He's got like a a basement that's like all Newcastle stuff.
yeah.
And look, it's sick except for the fact that it's Newcastle stuff. But other than that, it's epic, right? He's an absolute legend. He mentioned that Thomas Cant would be the lock once the guys came back. So he thinks that. I think there's a chance of that. And if he comes off the bench, I think he'll play big minutes off the bench anyway. So I could see Thomas Cant being a guy who at lock plays 50 minutes, scored 50 points. That's fine. Like you ride the wave with that, see what happens. He plays round 12, give him a chance. I would stick with Thomas Cant 100% if I had him.
And now I'll group these players up. 3 players, obviously, they none of them will play Origin. Fletcher Sharp, Kai Pearce-Paul, Leo Thompson. Would you look to bring any of those guys in over the next couple of weeks?
Fletcher Sharp, Kai Pearce-Paul, Leo Thompson. I think the ship has sailed on Leo. Sorry. Yeah, the ship sailed on Leo Thompson. So for Leo, the appeal was the understrength middle forwards. Jacob Safidi will come back soon. Adam Elliott will come back soon. Matt Croker's now at lock. Thomas Cant's back in the middle forward rotation. Leo Thompson, his minutes will sort of fade back to normal, I think, at this point. So I'd skip him. It's a question of Kai Pearce-Paul versus Fletcher Sharp. Kai Pearce-Paul I like, and I've liked for a while as a pod. You can do it. You can totally do it. Like the price is pretty attractive because his price copped a hit when he copped that HIA. In fact, I'm just getting his numbers up now. So Pearce-Paul is now at 651k. He rose 40k last week, but 651k, it's not expensive. And last week he scored a 76 with a try assist, but minimal attacking stats, right? So you take that off, he's still at about a 70. 43 tackles in that game. The 5 offloads is very appealing. And you also throw in 129 run meters there. Like that's red hot. And he's been pumping out that 40 odd tackles every week too. So yeah. And sorry, I got that HIA thing wrong, by the way. He didn't drop cash from that, but he did miss a game due to injury. So yeah, 61k. I like it. I think he's rock solid. I think he plays 80 minutes. The one risk is that Thomas Cant maybe does play some minutes off the bench. And last year they did screw around the minutes a bit, but I think Thomas Cant will play lock. So yeah, if you want Kai Pearce-Paul and you need a back row, I like him a lot. Other option there is, Sharp. Sharp's red hot. He was in our pod list last week. He's a cracking buy. He's just super involved. And the big thing about Sharp is he averages about 25 tackles a game with about 1.5 missed tackles a game. So you're looking at 20 plus points in base from his tackling. And you're throwing it 100 plus meters run. You jump to about a 32 base, right? Just pure base there. You throw in some tackle breaks, some offloads, and you throw some attacking stats on. And you're looking at a 50 average. So, yeah, I think Fletcher Sharp's a banging option. He won't make Origin. He's pretty matchup proof as well because he has that big defensive work rate. So, yeah, I'd probably be looking at Sharp over Pearce-Paul just because of how desperate we are at wing fullback, but they're both good options.
Now, final question for the Knights. Obviously, Jaden Campbell's out for 4 weeks. Would you look to move from Jaden Campbell to Fletcher Sharp to lock down that wing fullback?
Yeah, man. Yeah. That's Antonio. You've got that right. That's a good option. Jaden Campbell, I love him. I may have held for 3 weeks. 4 to 5 weeks is too much. So, yeah, I think that's a great trade. You've suggested a good one. Jump into that. Let's keep rolling through these teams. And look, I think they were the most interesting teams. So I think we get a bit faster now. And at the end, there are actually some interesting ones as well. So we'll go quick on the boring ones. We'll go slow on the fun ones. So Storm here. We've got Pappenhausen, Bradley, Anderson. Nick Meaney is back this week. Coates is back there as well. Then Munster and Hughes. Jumping into the forward pack here. Atoka Manu, Garlic, King, Blore, Katoa, and Loyero is that pack. And then interchange, Wishart, McDonald, Chan, and Valepu. Now, for the Storm, Pappenhausen, it's too late. He's going to lose the goal kicking to Meaney, most likely. There is a chance he keeps it because he is a good goal kicker. I think there's like a 10% chance that Pappenhausen holds it, but most likely it'll go back to Nick Meaney. So he'll be the goal kicker there. Rest of the back line, I've got really no interest in. Cam Munster, I think you can sell Cam Munster at this point. Yeah, a few of you guys are asking. There was a point in the game last week where I can't remember who I was watching with. Maybe I said it in the live chat. I sort of turned, they were down by, 12 points, about 20 minutes to go. I sort of turned to someone and said, hey, if Munster doesn't step up here from a fantasy production perspective, he's not going to. And we sort of saw him, he's playing good footy in real life. I like him as a player. I'm scared of him in Origin. But fantasy, he's just not that guy anymore. So, Yeah, I just don't think the physicality and the work rate isn't there like it used to be when he was younger. So he's just not running the ball like he's trying to burst through these days. So that was the thing that made him good in fantasy, and now he doesn't really have that as much. And they're winning games most of the time, so they don't really need to change anything either. Jerome Hughes rising up as well has definitely hurt him too. So I think you can sell Cam Munster right now. Saying that, my fear is that we sell Cam Munster and he'll score 80 points the week we sell him. So just, read into the superstition if you want. I will be selling this week. And if you want to sort of benefit from my jinx, then you could hold him for 1 more week and see what happens. Jerome Hughes is one that I'm looking at over the next couple of weeks. A few people might be asking about that, but for Hughes, I would wait, a couple more weeks there. I want to see a game where he has 100 meters plus running the ball and doesn't get up wincing from 15 tackles. So I'm just looking for him to be fully fit. But we know Jerome Hughes. We know who he is. That guy's an absolute monster. And through the origin period, when they're missing guys, he's a must-have. For the rest of the team here, I'm really not that interested in buying most of these guys. Itoka Manu's minutes are about 5 minutes below what I want to see. And then Elliot Katoa, a few of you guys have him. It was an off game. He's an attacking stat back rower. I wouldn't read into it. I would stick with him. The rest of the team, I think, is a no in terms of buys. But Monty, I'll throw to you. Any questions for the Storm?
One question is, and that's Bronson Garlic with Grant out for the hamstring and Origin. Would you look to bring him in?
I looked at the numbers on this, and it was something like a 27 average in 51 minutes for Garlic at hooker as a starting hooker. So no is the pretty clean answer on that one. He just isn't a big producer for fantasy, and it's not a long enough time. If Grant was out for like 3 months, we could talk about it, but Grant will come back, and Garlic's just not a good enough scorer to jump onto, so no.
Grant Anderson, any love for him? He's
how long is Jack Howarth out for? I'm trying to think, because the issue is Meaney's back now, and Anderson was covering for me. So I don't think Howarth is out for a long time from memory.
Yeah, they haven't said how long he'll be out for. So
Shoulder.
unknown at this stage.
Yeah, so shoulder for Jack Howarth. I don't think he's out for ages. So look, you could think about Grant Anderson if you wanted to with Howarth, if Howarth is out for a long time. I just don't think it's a long enough time. So I'm going to say no at this stage. But if confirmation came back that Howarth is out for a while, then definitely. And I'm seeing a few questions about Nick Meaney. It's probably on the same line of questioning. Meaney is very attacking stat reliant. He's kind of interesting, and he comes through to the fullback spot as well sometimes. So when it comes to Meaney, also shout out. Sorry, I just got a text from my mate John. Shout out to John if you're watching. Love you, mate. But for Nick Meaney here, 580k. He's gone up a bit of cash so far this year. And no, he scored that 22. He'll drop a bit of cash. He has a pretty high break even. They don't play round 12. They don't play round 15. Do you know what I mean? Like it's you're not getting any our origin value out of him. I think Nick Meaney is a guy we could look at in round 16 potentially, but I think he's just a tier below that keeper level, and he has a really bad origin schedule. So I'm going to say no to Nick Meaney.
And quite a few questions for the Rabbitohs team as well.
Let's tear in then. So for the Bunnies, Latrell Mitchell at fullback. Then we got Bentley, Hape, Whiten, Graham, and Tass. We'll go through to the halves. We've got Walker and Sullivan there. Bit of a change up. So Latrell at fullback is big news, by the way. We'll talk about that in a sec. We go to Kepi, Marmazelis, Totola, and then we throw to Kalomatangi, Aitken, and Arrow. Big news there as well. This is actually a really good team list. All right, this is juicy. Then interchange Jai Gray. I think that's a disservice to him to play him on the bench. Havili, Moale, and Duncan. Now, if I was in charge of the Bunnies, this is pretty close to what I would have been thinking about doing. So not that Bennett needs my advice, but I'll tell you what, this is a nice looking team list. I think they're going to get the most out of their team with this. I will say, though, Jai Gray, I think he's the future number 6 for the Rabbitohs. So I'm kind of surprised they're not potentially moving back into reserve grade and giving him some experience at number 6, because I think that they should just be getting him ready for that role. And I think he'd be so dynamic in the halves. So that's one thing I'm a bit surprised by, but keep him in first grade. He can have an impact off the bench as well. For the rest of the team here, look, Latrell Mitchell at fullback I'm a Latrell Mitchell owner, right? So I'm happy about this. I want him back there. I think that Latrell at fullback could potentially kick the ball 300 to 400 to 500 meters this week, right? I don't think he's going to do the 700 meters of kicking this week, but at the same time, like Cody Walker doesn't kick the ball. And we've seen Jaden Sullivan not kick the ball next to Latrell as well. So there's a chance that Latrell plays fullback and also does all the kicking, which would be absolutely ridiculous. Now, I copped the 31-point game from Latrell last week, but I got the 60 plus the week before. So I'm not as upset. But I'll tell you what, if he comes out this week and he does that, I'll be stoked. So yeah, for Trell, I think it's a bit too soon when it comes to Origin to be going out and buying him. But if you have him, ride the wave. Like, don't sell him. Stick with him. Let's hope that we get some big scores out of him. For the rest of the back line here, where it's not that exciting. I mean, Cody Walker's 350K, which is pretty outrageous. And at some point, he will be so cheap that we have to go and buy him. Like Cody Walker cash cow. If he gets down to like 250K, which he scored 12 points last week, like his break even is enormous for 350K. He could get down to 200s. I'll be looking at Cody Walker 100% because he's going to have a run at some point where he puts up some attacking stats, or he'll get dropped from the team. I don't think he can keep playing the way he's been playing because he's been a bit injury riddled and he hasn't been super effective, and he's going to have to play better because they've got guys like Jai Gray, for example, who can step into that 6 role and be super dynamic. So Cody Walker's a guy to keep an eye on 100%. Going through the forward pack here, Marmazelis is doing his job. I don't want to hear anyone ask questions about Marmazelis and selling him. He's been rock solid. Stick with him as long as you can. And then I saw a question pop up here. We need to get Terrell May on this show. So if you're on that stream, comment saying he should join the Casual Athlete show because he's the fantasy GOAT and I want him on here. I think I shot him an email yesterday, actually, asking him if he wants to come on the show. So we'll see if he comes on. But going through the rest of the team here, if you've got Sullivan, you stick with him at this point. Like, this is actually pretty good news if you're a Sullivan owner. He's going to be in the team probably until Humphreys comes back. So that's pretty good news for you there. And then for the forward pack, Jairo is at lock. Hubner's out for a week. There's 2 iterations of this. The first option, which is what I would have said in the preseason, is that this is their first grade side. This is their sort of top 13. And I think coming into the year, this is the team they would have planned to play. So Jairo at lock, or potentially Jairo in the prop rotation as well. And Hubner potentially on the bench there with Aitken and Kolomatangi as their starting back rows. I think Ewan Aitken will be one of their starting back rows. So for Hubner, I think it's going to be a case of him coming back and Arrow going into the prop rotation. I think the Bunnies need a bit more out of their middle forwards, and I think Arrow can add that. And I think Ewan Aitken is a better edge back row than Jai Arrow is. I just think that's not me dissing Arrow. It's more me hyping Ewan Aitken. Like, I think he's one of the best attacking edge back rowers in the game. So I think he adds a lot to their edges. So from my perspective, Ewan Aitken's going to be an interesting option over the next couple of weeks. He scored that 11-point game playing at center last week, so the price is coming down a bit. Hopefully he can get a bit cheaper, maybe be an option for us, at the right time there. So I wouldn't buy Aitken this week, but in general, I think he's interesting. Also, if Aitken is available on your waivers in a draft league, you definitely grab him there. Now, for the Bunnies here, Monty, any other questions coming through for the Rabbitohs?
There are plenty of questions on Lachlan Hubner. Second HA now is missing just the week. Would you hold him or would you look to move him on?
Hubner's priced in the low 30s. I think it's like 32 or 33. In that last game, he played 18 minutes and he scored 23 points. I like that. I like that a lot. I think the Rabbitohs have a lot of injury issues. Guys like Jai Arrow can miss time. Aitken, obviously coming back from major injury. Totola has missed time many times in his career. Arrow can play prop. I think there's too many good things for Hubner here to ignore. And at that sort of low 30s price, I think he can cap out in the 40s. So I think that's still like 10 points of value. So Hubner is still a hold at this stage. You've got other guys to sell. Hubner isn't one of the problems you have.
And obviously, Jai Gray, named on the bench. What would you do with him now?
Sell. Firm sell. Roll's gone. So Elm 81. Got to go. Sell Jai Gray.
Then we have a trade here from Shuey, Peter Mamazelis to Tommy Talau and Pia Kura. Mate,
I don't know if you have the salary cap for that because Talau's $2 million by himself. Pia Kura is $3 million as the new mascot of the show. No. Look. Tommy Talau, he had his resurgence last year. You've noticed though his form has fallen off this year, because he's no longer the casual athlete mascot. I'm telling you, like, if we make him the mascot again, I reckon he shoots right back up. So I might do it at this point. And Pia Kura, he'll come good. We're going to save him. But he's just getting down to 230K for us before we jump on. Now, any other questions on the bunnies here?
Yes, we do. Would you look to a couple of questions on buying Jaden Sullivan? Would you buy him with Humphreys right around the corner?
I mean, it's too risky, isn't it? Like, Humphreys is back so soon. You know, Sullivan's 286K. His score last time he played was a 33 in 80 minutes. He had the try assist, and he had the 67 run meters with 22 kick meters. The roll's not good enough. I think Latrell will do a lot of kicking. There's every chance. Right? There's a chance here that we come into this game and Sullivan plays like he did at the Tigers last year, and he scores 80 points. He's the dominant half, and Latrell plays pure fullback. It's not a high chance. It's like a 2% chance. I think the pretty certain thing I'm going to say here is that Latrell does 300 meters plus of kicking, and Sullivan will score maybe a 50 this week. I think he'd be solid, but Humphreys is back so soon, and Humphreys is better than really anyone on the team right now. So I think Humphreys is a walk-up start. So I wouldn't get on Sullivan. But if you have him, you stick with him, ride the wave. But if you don't have him, don't get on. Cool. All right, let's keep rolling through these teams. So we've got next game, and it's the Cowboys and the Titans. And we're looking at 5:30 here. All right, Battle of Queensland, this one. Actually, are there any Titans or Cowboys fans in the chat? Do you guys hate each other? Like, is there a rivalry there, or is it just the Broncos that you both hate? Now, let's go into this team. Drinkwater, Derby, Purdue, Vilea, Taulagi is the backline there. Then Dearden and Clifford. Jumping into the forward pack here, we got McLean, Robson, Taumalolo with Bateman, Nanai, and Cotter. Jumping into the interchange, we have McIntyre, O'Donnell, Neem, and Hess. For the Cowboys, got to look at this man. Got to look at this man. So, Scotty Drinkwater. Wing fullback, we have problems, right? And we talked about Sharp. Sharp is fantastic. Drinkwater is good as well. Drinkwater started the year a little bit cold, a little bit quiet. He has about a 47 average from memory, but his last 3-round average is up in the mid-50s because he's been killing it and the Cowboys have turned it around. Now, for Scotty Drinkwater, I'm just going to grab the buy schedule here because the price he's at is fine. He's not a big discount. Like last week, we got a bigger discount, but $630K, it's a fine price to pay for him. And he's goal kicking this year as well. So schedule here is Titans, Warriors, Panthers, Sea Eagles. He does have the bye round 12. And then round 13, he will be a must-have. So you can go early, you can get him now if you want, or you can wait for round 13, at which point, once we get to round 13, his next bye will be round 27. So he is the perfect wing fullback after the first major bye round, but you can get on early. The Titans matchup, it's not a bad one. I think he turns up in this game. So I like Drinky. I think I'd go for Sharp over Drinkwater, just on the back of that schedule. And Karaz is probably my third option because I'd pick him in the Blues team. I just think he's a Blues. He's made for Origin, Jacob Karaz. So I'm going Sharp, Drinkwater, Karaz. That's my list there. Any questions on the Cowboys here, Monty, as we go through?
We do. In regards to your Cowboys and Titans question, Mitchell here doesn't hate the Titans, but can't stand Broncos, though. And I think that's pretty unanimous amongst those Cowboys and Titans fans.
Yeah, okay, so you're on the same team.
They are. Jackson Purdue, would you look to buy him after a 60 and a 70 score?
Oh, that's hard. That's really hard. Because Jackson Purdue was absolutely hopeless at the start of the year. Like, he was 245K, and I was having to talk people out of selling him, a month ago. And he's come out, and he's playing like one of the best centers in the comp right now. The Titans is not a bad matchup either.
Is this a bit of Keanu Kinney from last year, maybe? Starting off slow and maybe
he's good,
warming
man.
into first grade?
Yeah. And he hasn't even hit his full straps. Like, there's been times where he's had space and they haven't fed him the ball. So I think he has even more in the tank. I can't say no to you. I can't say no. There's every chance that he just kicks on and he's one of the better centers in fantasy. If you ask me to predict his average this year, God, that's hard. Why did I ask myself that question? I'm probably going to say a 45. Like, I think he can get that 45 average. So at the price he's at, his value, 100%. Yeah. But he's going to have some quiet games. Like, they're going to happen. They're absolutely going to happen. But that 45, I mean, he's averaging 42 right now, even with those low scores. So I think, yes, he's an option to buy. You burn a bit because you're paying full price for him, but I'm going to say yes to Jackson Purdue.
Now, there's quite a few questions in regards to Bateman and Nanai. Would you look to bring any of those two in? And if you have Bateman, would you move him on to someone else?
The issue for these guys is, Bateman's a bit out of form, so I'm going to say no to him. Nanai is interesting. His price has dropped a ton, right? And he's not in great form in real life, so he's no guarantee to make the Origin team. That's where I was kind of talking about Capewell as a potential Origin player because of Nanai's form. I think Bo Firma is locked in, by the way, as one of those edge back rowers, but Nanai might not get his spot potentially. So you could do it, but he doesn't play round 12 either, right? So there's a few things counting against him here. I personally would wait for him to not make Origin and for the back rowers who are picked over him to play well, and I'd look him in round 13. I think buying him before that, you're asking for trouble. But at the same time, as a starter, he is like a 45 average and he's underpriced. So if you want to back him in, you can back him in. The issue, though, is that if he plays well for you in fantasy, he's going to make Origin, right? So you kind of have a catch-22 where he either keeps playing poorly and he scores really poorly for you in fantasy, or he plays well and he makes Origin, that screws you over too. So there's not really a way you can win with Nanai, I don't think. So I would say no to Nanai. But round 13, we'll talk about it more.
Now, Jake Clifford. There's a couple of questions on him. Would you look any thoughts on him?
No, I think he showed what he is in that last game. So he had that hot run to start. Then he had that 31, I believe it was, before the bye. That was more kind of the volatility I expect. I think he's like a mid 40s to high 40s average, and he's priced well up in that area as well. I'll mention too, Jaden Sewer, one of the guys in the comments there mentioned it. M. Edmonds mentioned Jaden Sewer. He's the other option as well, by the way, for Queensland. So Sewer, Bo Firma, that feels like the two. But Nanai could be on the bench. You never know what happens.
Now, there's no more questions for the Cowboys. Plenty of questions on a Titans player we all fell in love with for 5 days and then had to break up with him.
Yeah. Hopefully you were able to reverse. So big lesson there, by the way, from that one. Set up your trades so you can reverse them. And don't vice captain or captain players you buy, right? That's always my advice. I saw a lot of people did that with Campbell, and you want to keep yourself flexible so you can reverse those trades. But for the Titans here, we have DeGroot at fullback. Cam Pereira's back. I'm like, it's not about fantasy. I'm just excited to see Cam Pereira play again. I think he's one of the most exciting wingers in the game. Then we got Kelly, Sami, Fafita. Going through the halves, we have Brimson and Weaver. Forward pack here is Fodawaker, Ferrells, Campbell Gillard. And then we have Randall on the edge back row spot. Bizarre that's happening. And Bo Firma and Tino Fa'usalali. Then interchange is Fafita, Jolliffe, Gray, and Howe. What the F is that? What? Didn't we get confirmation that Dave Fafita was out for like 4 weeks?
I'm pretty sure
I swear.
it was earlier today as well. Earlier today.
And Des Hasler said it. What the hell? He's been named despite initial fears he could miss up to a month with a hamstring injury. All right, the initial read, I'm reacting live, by the way. The initial read is it's a light hamstring issue. He'll be fine next week. All good. Then it came out it was 4 weeks. And now he's named. Okay. I'm speechless. If you have Fafita, you hold him, obviously, right? Because this means he's close. So if you have him, you stick with him. And you probably play him in your 17 this week. But if you don't have him, you can't buy him. You can't buy him. It's too late in the round. He's named on the bench. But as if they're going to play Chris Randall at edge back row over Dave Fafita. This is bizarre. Where's Haas? Cleese Haas? Did he get hurt? Because he was on the bench last week, Cleese Haas, right? So last week they played Randall over Cleese Haas. This is really bizarre. This is very strange. I'm going to read the comments here and see if anyone's got the answer. Sif Kanga, he's a superstar game day squad. He's going to play, then be out for 6 weeks, then he's playing again. Yeah, it's confusing. I guess I'll answer a question while we wait for Fafita news, but does Brimmer get more touches to JC out? I mean, Brimmer had a try assist and scored nothing last week, but I will say yes in general. I think he'd be all right. And then, yeah, Fafita, I mean, the question here is, do you get Fafita? I wouldn't be buying him. No, I wouldn't be buying him at all. But who knows what happens? I mean, he's got a low break even, right? But you want to see him as the starter. Like, he's not interesting off the bench. He's got to be the starter, and he has to have a hamstring that works. So that's kind of crazy. To be honest, this is making me think, and one of you guys mentioned it here as well. It's making me think about Jaden Campbell, because if the Titans are coming out here and just giving fake mail to us, screwing us fantasy coaches over, Des has like enemy number one now. By the way, he's the guy. Then we can't trust anything. If Jaden Campbell's back in 2 weeks, he's a hold, right? If Jaden Campbell's back next week for some reason, then he's definitely a hold. I'm gonna have to think about this. And guys, buy, hold, sell. Come watch that 100%. We'll talk about this. I'll do just a Titans segment, I think, and really give some thoughts on this. But it's bizarre. Monty, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I read it today for feeder out for a period. Campbell minimum a month, but then I'm very similar to you. Do you trust what they're saying? Well, Fafita's named. He was out. He was out for a month. So I don't really know. Campbell 4 weeks. I mean, I don't know who to trust these days. All these journos coming out, player managers doing this and that. You don't know who to trust. So we're in a very tough spot right now as fantasy coaches.
Man, it's hard because I try to share the mail and the rumors and all that. But sometimes it's just total BS out there. So yeah, it's a hard one. My answer here on Fafita is, by the way, if you have him, hold him, play him in your 17. If you don't have him, don't buy him unless we get some sort of confirmation. But I wouldn't be buying him. Now, interesting. A few people are raising this. I'm going to look into this a bit more. I think Campbell's back in 1-2 weeks. He dodged surgery. So he did dodge surgery. That is confirmed. I heard 4 to 5 weeks, but maybe it's less. NRL Physio will give us the answer on that. I generally lean on him as the source for this kind of thing. So most of the injury news I share is NRL Physio stuff. So it could be shorter, but I will wait for confirmation from someone who knows what they're talking about when the injury game comes up. Now, for the rest of the Titans team here, I wouldn't be targeting Origin players. So Tino's not a guy to target. Then, I mean, AJ Brimson could be one to consider. Tom Weaver's not a great fantasy scorer. I think he averages like 35 in reserve grade, so it's just not there. He's not really a noted dominant kicker either. So he averages about 170 kick meters a game in reserve grade at halfback. He's going to get a few more in starting, but yeah. And here we go. So LM's saying Physio said at least a month. Look, that was the original call, but I'm questioning everything now. So, all right, guys, Titans is definitely one to keep an eye on, 100%. Let's keep rolling through here. And I'll just quickly confirm my sound all coming through good, all that sort of thing.
Perfect.
Beautiful, beautiful. The downside of, obviously it's a beautiful location. I could see the beach when the sun was up. I can't now. It's a beautiful spot, but out here in the bush, it's a dodgy reception. We'll be back in my cozy office next week. So Panthers and the Sea Eagles, Saturday night footy. We got Edwards, Alamotti, Tungo back in the starting team, McLean and Jenkins. Then we have Talangi and Cleary. So Brian Toll still out of the team right now. Leota, Summerton, Henry in the starting team. And Sorensen, Martin, and Yo in the back row there. We then have Schneider, Papali'i, Lindsay Smith, and Maverick Gaia on the bench. Throwing across to the extended bench, Dane Laurie, Patea, Kapoa. Yeah, okay. Cole's there too. I don't know about these Panthers rotations. I'm not going to have the rant again, but just bizarre the way they're using their team right now. I'd give Liam Henry more minutes and I'd move Papali'i to the edge. I'm going to say it every week until it happens. But for the Panthers here, Dylan Edwards had a big game last week. Big fantasy score, 70-plus points. He's the incumbent for the Origin team. So I think you can't really jump on him. But it's worth watching his form because the better he is, the better a buy Tedesco is. Yeah, Azog, big question there. Look, Laurie comes in as coach, and I think Laurie's last time coaching, he picked Tedesco from memory. I think, and they won the series with Tedesco. So there's every chance that Laurie comes in and goes, you know what, Tedesco's my guy, I'm going to pick him. It's unlikely, but there is a chance that happens. So I think Dylan Edwards is probably certain for Origin. He's had some injuries issues as well. I wouldn't buy him, but man, it would be an outrageous pod. Like if you want to do it, you can do it. Wing fullback is a bit light. I just personally think it's a bit too close to Origin, but you do have a 4-week window. The issue there, though, is the Panthers had that round 11 bye. He misses round 12. Like, it's just not a great window. So it really is a 3-week window, actually, which is just not the play. For the rest of the backline here, actually, Monty, I'll just throw to you, man. Like, what questions are we getting about the Panthers?
Tom Jenkins. What would you do with him? He's been very disappointing outside Casey McLean. Would you still hold him, or would you look to sell him, or?
Oh,
against his
Jenkins is my
Manly
guy,
side.
man. He's my guy. I got him for 250k. Got on so early. I thought I was so smart. Like I thought I was a total genius with him, and he got put outside Casey McLean. I just don't really understand why they're running that configuration. Like just from a pure footy perspective, Jenkins is the superior center. I think he runs a better line. I think he has an offload in his game. I think he's a better playmaker, and I think McLean is actually a better winger. Like he's very explosive. He's a great ball runner. He's very quick. So I would have thought that they'd swap that around at some point, but maybe Jenkins is more sold onto the high ball, or there's probably something else they're reading into. Again, Ivan Cleary's won 4 comps. I haven't, so I won't question him too much. But for Jenkins, the upside is there, and you've got to hold him, I think, at this stage. But at the same time, you can't trust him as a scorer. He's just not getting enough ball, and the work rate has kind of dropped off a bit the last couple of weeks too. So we saw him go under 100 meters run last week. I don't trust him. He won't be in my 17, but he will stay in my squad for a bit longer because my hope is that Brian To'o comes back in and Jenkins moves to center. Because Jenkins is a better player than Casey McLean. That is objectively true. Casey McLean may have more potential, so they may pick on that. But I think Jenkins is a better player today, and he won the spot over Casey McLean when To'o was fit. And if Jenkins goes back to center, I think he's a 40 average, and I think he's fantastic through the origin period. So stick with Jenkins. He plays round 12. Hope for the best, but be ready to sell if he does get dropped.
And I've just got to agree with Jack here. The Panthers need to learn from the Raiders, and if they pass it to the winger will score tries and therefore score more fantasy points.
I mean, they didn't pass that many to Tamale. Like they still hogged all the tries, with Hudson Young scoring all of them, Ethan Strange and Seb Chris, but they passed one to Tamale and he made it work. Tamale went looking for the ball as well. So 200 meters plus run. I think he had like 7 tackle breaks or something crazy like that. So yeah, they need to pass the ball to Jenkins 100%. It's desperate times.
And then the fantasy Kings back, Nathan Cleary. Where would you rank him on for captains this week?
Yeah, for Claire's, I mean, you got to consider him 100%. Like Cleary is one of those guys who he's just that fantasy goat, man. And that game last week was 93 points with next to no attacking stats. So he had 14 points from goal kicking, but he didn't have any try assists, line break assists, right? So you're looking at a 90 plus point game that didn't really involve attacking stats. So when it comes to Nathan Cleary, you got to think about it. Now, I guess the question is, how do you think this game goes against Manly? Do you think that he is going to steer them to a win? Or do you think that... Oh, okay. Sorry, one sec. I'm going to have to duck away in a sec. But do you think that Cleary dominates, or do you think Manly bounce back? Monty, I'll throw to you first here. What do you think? Do you think that this is a game that Manly can win, or do you think it's the Panthers that are going to dominate here?
As a Manly fan, I think Manly can win easily. But if I'm in the fantasy mind, Tom Trbojevic is back. It does help Manly a lot. But I think Nathan Cleary, I think that was the game he needed to get himself back in that mojo, get him going again. So I think Cleary can, will he score a 90 again? I feel like he's due for a try. I was waiting for it last week. A little drop someone under, step back inside, try. Cleary loves that in the dying moments. So I wouldn't be surprised if he has a crack this game. And there's no reason why you shouldn't captain him.
Yeah, I think he's a good option too. But I like Haas against the Dogs more. That's where my heart lies right now. But I'll tell you what, I don't like swapping my captain to the guy who scored the best last week. That's the one thing that I try not to do, because you fall behind everyone who captained them last week. So I think I would go for Terrell May or Payne Haas over Cleary myself. But look, he's one of the 3. There's 3 captains. You pick the one that your heart calls to. Close your eyes and think of all 3. Imagine their games, and which one do you see having the best game? That's the one you go with. Honestly, there's not much of a better way to pick captains this year. Like it really is just a gut feel, and maybe your gut's going to win. Maybe it's not. You got to go with it. And I'll tell you guys who I captain. Monty, I'll tell you who he does as well, but we don't get it right every week either. So
that's what fantasy is about. That's what we love.
It's a hard game. Any other questions here for the Panthers?
Yes. What would you do if you didn't own Cleary? Would you buy him with Origin around the corner, or would you wait until round 2019?
That game was a statement game, right? And his price is probably up around that sort of 750k area. Let me just check that. So yeah, 754k. So his price bounced back a bit. Okay, there's 2 things I'll say. That is the cheapest that you will get Cleary this year. Like 100%. It is the cheapest you'll get Cleary this year. do you get him? I mean, so he's going to play this week. So it's round 8, 9, 10. So he plays 3 weeks. He misses round 11. He misses round 12. He maybe misses round 13, backing up from Origin as well. I think if you don't have Cleary, you probably continue to anti-pod. That's kind of my view. Like, you've done it so far already, and you've done pretty well with that anti-pod. So I would continue to do that strategy. But at the same time, if you do want to jump on, you can totally jump on Cleary there. What are you thinking, Monty? Here, if you didn't have Cleary, would you stick with your anti-pod strategy, or are you jumping on now? Because he is cheap. He's very cheap.
He is cheap, but I feel like this is the last week to do it if you were thinking about it. But he's one of those players you have no regrets of owning Cleary. You have no regrets in him. You get him. Yeah. He's in your team for the rest of the year, and he can score a 100+ score. He has it. He can go on runs where he can continually score 80+. And I just, it's a big gamble. If it depends where you already are. If you're a bit behind the pack, if you're a bit behind in your head-to-head leagues, overall leagues with your mates, I feel like getting Cleary will just help you crawl back to where you were. It's a tough one for sure.
Also, shout out here too. Edmonds came in 2019 without Cleary. So he's saying don't get him. But then Kanga is dropping in. If you don't have Cleary, you're not taking the app serious. Sorry, I should say it in his voice. If you don't have Cleary, you're not taking the app seriously. Does anyone read caps lock like that? And then let's jump into Manly here. Jazz Tavanga is a great question, by the way. Let's go Manly here. Turbo, Saab, Kohler, Garrick, Hopewadi. We've got Brooks and Cherry Evans in the halves. Low scores from them last week. Aloy, Simkin, Takyaho in the front row. And then El Lakawatu, Turbo, Ben Trebojevic, by the way, turned up last week. And Jazz Tavanga at lock. Oh, Jazz Tavanga at lock. Then Talau on the bench, Waddell, Bullimore, and Brown. So Jake Trebojevic. Who's Nathan Trebojevic? What player have I just made up there? So Jake Trebojevic is out. Do you have any updates on his length of time out here? Because you're a Manly fan, mate, so I'm going to lean on you here. Jazz Tavanga's playing lock. I feel like it's only 1 week, right?
Yeah, definitely 1 week. We saw Manly last week without Jake Trebojevic in the middle and leaking points through the middle. So I think Manly will get him back as quick as possible. So yeah, 1 week play, I reckon.
Yeah, okay. And then Jake Trebojevic is not a guarantee for Origin. I would say he's highly unlikely to make the Origin side. So you don't get that benefit either. But Manly, they do have a good run through Origin. So they play the major bye rounds. You want to try and target a few Manly players. It's just nothing is opening up when I look at this Manly team. So with Jazz Tavanga, your only hope there, because there is a hope. You need Jazz Tavanga to play some lock, right? Because Jazz Tavanga at hooker hasn't been scoring well. If he plays some lock, he can score well, even if it's only sort of 30 minutes at lock, right? That makes Jazz Tavanga a rock solid cheapie. Like probably my number 1 cheapie this week if he's playing 30 to 40 minutes at lock going forward. The risk is that he doesn't do that. So 2 options here. The first option is Manly keep doing what they were doing and they bring Trebojevic back at lock and Jazz Tavanga plays mostly hooker and plays a little bit of forwards here and there, but he's mostly a hooker. Option 2 is that Manly look at their team, and you can tell me if I'm being crazy here, and they look at their team and they go, you know what, we don't have Taniela Paseka. We're missing a few other guys in the middle forward rotation. Jake Trebojevic, you are going to the front row, and we're going to add some creativity through the middle with Jazz Tavanga. Or, maybe Jake Trebojevic.
Fairly reasonable, yeah.
Yep, reasonable. Because maybe Jake starts at lock and then moves to lock for a prop for a bit. You know what I mean? Like, I think that could be something that happens. Because the front row rotation, I like all these guys individually. I like Aloye, I like Takyaho, Brown, Bullimore, these sorts of guys, but they're getting rolled through the middle.
And it's surprising that Nathan Brown wasn't named at lock. I thought Nathan Brown would have been named lock, similar to the end of last year. Would have been nice to have another little cheap Nathan Brown, but yeah, this Manly side needs Jake Trebojevic, so...
A burst from Nathan Brown, man. We'd love that, hey. So, yeah, look, Jazz Tavanga, you can take the pod play, guys. If you really want to, I would wait for some sort of confirmation somewhere. If anyone knows anyone at Manly, go and ask them. But I'd probably wait for some confirmation that there's some role change. Because Jazz Tavanga, if he plays lock, he's like Aaron Clark, basically, except he's under 300K. So, bang an option there. Then, yeah, a few funny ones here. Talau won't be at the game because he's going to be at the Vatican. He will be our new Pope. I love the Talau gag. But Talau's the goat. I wish he'd come on the show. I actually did DM him on Instagram, but he never replied for some reason. Didn't see the DM. I guess he's probably got too many Instagram models hitting him up because he's the man. Any other questions here for Manly here, Monty?
Yes. Charlie asks, what would you do as a Taukiaho owner?
I think he's a sell. He's very limited. Without knowing his scoring intimately, he's just a limited scorer. At this stage of his career, he's not interesting for fantasy. So I'd think about giving him the flick. Also, just confirming quickly, my sound's coming through clear, right?
Yeah, sound's coming through clear.
Cool. Any other questions?
No other questions. A couple people here really keen to see Garrick bounce back with Turbo, obviously. So
yeah, Garrick. Yeah, well, Turbo's back. Turbo's vaguely interesting. If Turbo doesn't make the Origin team, then you might look at him in round 12. But the issue is he won't stay out of the Origin team. Like he might not make it game 1, but he might make game 2 or game 3. So that's the risk with Turbo. But he's going to be really cheap. So I'll think about Turbo for sure in a couple of weeks. Garrick, you stick with Garrick, right? He's playing all through the Origin period. He will be in your team until round 20. Don't think about it again. It's that simple. He's going to stay in your team. He'll go up and down in price. That's not a worry. And then a couple of people just mentioned sound not coming through. Monty, how's that going?
That sounds good. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear.
Yep, it hasn't cut out at all.
No issues on my end. No, it didn't cut out. There was a period where it cut out for a couple of seconds, but it came back very quickly.
I'll just flick the camera off for now, just so we can sort of save bandwidth. But yeah, in the middle of the bush this week. I'll be back in my normal spot next week, guys. Now, can you? Yeah, I've just turned my camera off, guys. Can you guys hear me though, loud and clear?
Yeah, I think there might have been messing with you.
Oh, yep. Okay. Well, camera's back then because it was a bit choppy from me. I heard it as well. Now let's keep rolling through then, because we're nearly at the finish here. So yeah, for Manly, that's what I'd look at. I'll shout out Rob as well every week. He wants to buy Luke Brooks. At some point, he will buy Luke Brooks. Someone asked too. I might just answer this as well. So what are you doing out in the bush? From Zach. So I do some work with. It's on this side. Aurora. So it's an Indigenous youth organization. So basically, it's all about sort of connection to culture, pathways into university, and all that sort of thing. So we do a lot of work with high school kids, a lot of mentoring sort of work. So I do a bunch of that stuff. So I'm away on a camp right now up on the Central Coast, but sort of in the bush here. We have to catch a ferry across to this island. So yeah, it's a pretty sweet spot. Awesome group of kids, year 10, 11, and 12 for this camp. But it just means that I've got dodgy reception for this week. Now, let's keep rolling through. And by the way, guys, it's a good thing to do in general. If you're someone who knows people that are younger than you, just think of the things that you wanted to know when you were younger and try to share that stuff. Like, I think that's the whole point of mentoring and all that kind of thing. So let's go through to the next game here. We got the Raiders and the Dolphins. And for the Raiders here, we got KO Weeks at fullback, Tamale, Tomoko, Chris, Savage in the back line, Strange and Fogarty in the halves. And then we go through the forward pack here. Corey Horsburgh, Tom Starling, Joey Tarpanay in the front row, Hardy Young, May Nicholson, Smithies in the back row. And then we've got Paddy, Hosking, Papali'i, and Mariota is the bench. And cheers. I've seen a few of the kind words come through as well. So appreciate you guys with the kind words there. Just try to do my bit. I'm sure we're all, we all do our bit, right? So we're all just doing our best in this world. But yeah, question there. Do any of them play fantasy? A few of them actually watch the show. So that was funny to get recognized by a couple of them this week. But for the Raiders here, I think you've got to talk about Tamale and the bounce back there. So that was a great game from Tamale. And he received a pass in an attacking position, which is just unheard of for us as Tamale owners. So that was really nice to see. He got involved as well. At this stage, another week has progressed and the wing fullback position has gotten weaker because of all the changes we've seen. So at this stage, Tamale now becomes a hold until round 13 at the earliest. He is no longer someone we consider selling. He's in your team until round 13. He plays round 12. They have their first bye in round 15, the Raiders. So Tamale will stay in your side. He's dual position, and we have a lot of problems in the back line. Keep him in there. He'll be fine. Then for the other spots here, Seb Chris is going well, but I'm not interested at all for fantasy. Matt Tomoko. you could talk about Matsumoto. I mean, he's one of those guys who had a really low score last week, and he has runs where he gets hot. And if he got cheap enough, I'd target him. But I think it's not going to work out timing wise. Ethan Strange is one where he was one low score away from me buying him as a pod. He just was not quite cheap enough, and I was too late, so I didn't get that one. Fogarty is doing Fogarty things, scoring in the 50s. Do you buy him? Like, you could buy him if you want. You don't have to. I went Nico Hines over Fogarty last week. They scored the same. They're about the same price. Fogarty's safer. Hines has more upside. That's sort of the difference there. Forward pack here, Corey Horsburgh. We're a bit concerned about him. There's probably a few people asking about that. I'm definitely getting a few DMs about Horsburgh. I wouldn't sell Horsburgh yet, but the minutes are going in the wrong direction. PPM is fantastic, though, right? Yeah, minutes are dropping 100%. And it's not going to get any better with Hosking in the team. I would keep him, though, because I think what's happening is he's being told that his minutes are dropping, and he's responding to that by playing, more aggressively. So if you're a Horsburgh owner like I am, keep him until the wheels fall off. And at some point, we will sell him, but until such times we have to, we won't rush him out. I think for him too, if you sell him for like a Max King, I think they're about the same level of scorer. Like, I don't think there's a big difference there. And I would just wait till the origin period to make that trade. So I'd keep Horsburgh until we see if he makes the origin team. If he doesn't make the origin team, then he's a guy who plays round 12. So he's not guaranteed to make origin, but he has a big chance of making origin, right? So if Horsburgh doesn't make origin, then you're going to love having him round 12. But if he does, then we'll sell him at that point. But keep Horsburgh until round 12 is my advice. For Tarpanay, you stick with him if you have him, but this is what we were talking about last week. He can have those low minute games, and this is why I haven't really recommended Tarpanay, because he has those big games, but he has these games where he plays 48 minutes and scores you 40 points, and that's what this one was. I wouldn't panic if you have him. You stick with him, ride the wave. But if you don't have him, just put the brakes on, wait for round 11, and have a look at him at that point. Hudson Young, it is too late. It is too late to get Hudson Young. You're paying full price for a guy who, I'll tell you what, he was top of our pod list 3 weeks ago. So I should have listened to my own advice at that point. I didn't do it myself, but if you got Hudson Young, you're loving it. ABM, I'll always shout you out for this one because he captains Hudson Young every week. So he's killing it there. But it's too late. He's too expensive. Don't get on. Matty Nicholson owners, he played 80 minutes last week. It is great news. Stick with him. Round 12, he plays. That's super easy. And then for Zach Hosking, played the 41 minutes last week. I see his role increasing over time. Yeah, does he get the minutes back? I don't think he gets the minutes back. I don't think they come back completely, but I could see him getting 65 minutes at lock or 60 minutes at lock and scoring 50 to 55 points. So let's hope he gets sort of a slow reintegration, drops in price a bit, and we can have a look at targeting him. But we need to see it first. That's the big thing. Then a few people asking about Smithies as well. I just don't think he's high enough in the pecking order for me. I think their best 5 forwards don't include Morgan Smithies, and you don't want to buy the 6th guy. So I'm going to say no to Morgan Smithies just on pecking order. Is there anyone I've missed there or any other questions we have on the Raiders here, Monty?
We do. It's an interesting one. You Payday asks, is Nicholson a buy, considering that Hudson Young could play Origin over the bye rounds?
Yeah, you could think about it. I mean, it's a bit risky at this point with Hosking on the bench. It looks like it's going to be okay because he played the 80 minutes last week. Price here is, what is it, 666? Is that a bit too satanic for you? That's probably another question. He's made 200K already. He's pumping out good numbers. Like last week, he scored 50 and he had, 35 run meters and no attacking stats, right? No offloads, no tackle breaks. So he's super safe. I don't hate it, but I'd probably go a different way. I just think the security isn't all there. Like he might drop back to 65 minutes at some point. You don't know what's going to happen here. That's the risk with him, especially if Sasangi comes back into the team. So I'd probably go Kai Pierce-Paul over Matty Nicholson myself.
And one final question for the Raiders. Who would you play in your scoring 17, Jenkins or Tomale?
So the Dolphins matchup or the Manly matchup? Oh, that's a tough one. I probably trust... So last week I thought Jenkins might be better because of the Dom Young matchup. I thought he might get a cheap try, but they just didn't throw him the ball at all. This week, the Manly matchup's not an easy one. Manly don't leak a lot of points on the edges, and the Dolphins have been solid lately too. So they put the Storm to the sword. I'd probably run Tamale. I just think he's a bit more of a freak, like a bit more of a guy who can absolutely crush tackle breaks and sort of that work rate. And he's got that trend of doing that recently. So I'd probably go Tamale myself, and I probably will do that with my team too. Let's keep rolling through. We've got Dolphins here. So we got the Hammer, Asako, Avarillo, Farmworth, Bostock, Nikarima, and Katoa, and then Safidi, Plath, Molo, Finafuyaki, Gilbert, and Mark Nichols. So Gilbert's made that full-time move to the edge back row, which I'm kind of shocked by. Donahue, Stone, and Lemuelu, and Kerr on the bench. I think Lemuelu is good enough to start in the NRL. I think it's insane that they're not running Lemuelu as a starting back rower, but it's neither here nor there. For the back line here, I think Hamaso plays Origin, so no interest there. Asako Avarillo, Farmworth, Herbie Farmworth, you could look at him. He's expensive. He's a top gun. He is a buy. I'm not desperate to bring him in at any point. Like the thing with him is you just buy him whenever and you're going to pay full price. Like, he doesn't really drop off in price, but he's a center who hasn't scored below 50. So if you want to beef up your centers and you want a pod and a guy who can go 100 plus, Herbie Farmworth is that guy. So I'm all for it. Isaiah Katoa is another one. Katoa's been killing it lately. If you like Katoa, get Katoa. It's not too late, but only if you really like him, right? And you think the Dolphins are going to win games and they're going to be good through the origin period. That's the big question, right? If you feel that way, then Katoa is a great option. For the forward pack here, Dan Safidi has fallen off a cliff. And I got to say, Monty, we were sitting here saying, oh my God, we missed it. How did we miss it on Dan Safidi? We didn't think he was that guy. Well, he's not that guy. We feel correct again. All right, we're vindicated. He did start well, and he's a great player. He's in good form in real life, but the fantasy scores have fallen off a cliff. Maxi Plath at hooker means that he'll probably score well this week, but I don't know. Like, is he going to play there long term? Like, obviously Marshall King will be back pretty soon. Then he has to go to lock, and I guess Gilbert is out of the lock rotation mostly. But then, like, Plath is the perfect bench player for Queensland, right? Because they have no Harry Grant, most likely for game one. So you're looking at him potentially being the hooker with Ben Hunt. Is he the starting hooker and Ben Hunt off the bench? Does Ben Hunt start? I just think it's too much risk. Like, Plath is made for Origin, right? He is a classic Queensland player. And as much as I hate to give Queensland any credit at all, Plath embodies the spirit that Queensland play with. So, man, I think it's too risky to buy Plath. Like, the role is a bit dodgy and he might play Origin. It's just there's too much there. But I'll tell you what, he's going to get cheaper this week, and he might get to a price where we do consider it. So look at him over the next couple of weeks, but I wouldn't do it right now. Then for the rest of the Dolphins, I've really got no interest in, I guess Molo comes in. If you're in a draft league and you're desperate, you get him. Finifuyaki's getting cheap, but not doing much. And then is there any other questions here for the Dolphins, Monty?
There's a couple questions on Avarillo and Asako as pod options over the bye period.
Asako can get hot. Yeah, Asako can get hot. Avarillo, I don't like as much. Asako can get super hot though on the wing. So if you want to, you could. I wouldn't. I haven't seen enough. What are the fixtures like for the Dolphins? I'll have a look at the fixtures here because maybe it opens up. So Dolphins fixtures, we're looking at. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so they play round 15 as well. Got the round 13 bye. So you got Raiders, Roosters, Eels, Warriors, Bulldogs. Bulldogs in an origin round, which doesn't affect the Bulldogs too much. You have a bye, then you have Dragons, Cowboys, Knights, Rabbitohs. It's not that attractive for fixtures. It's okay. Like, the fixtures are okay. I'm probably going to say no, but if I was going to get one of them, I'd get Asako. And I think Asako, he has the Eels coming up. They love to leak a try to a winger. But yeah, Asako is like a 5 out of 10 like option. Like, he's okay. He's a pod. He can pop off, but probably not where I'd be going. Now let's power through. If we don't have anyone else for the Dolphins, last game of the round here. Let's make sure that's true. Yep. Last game of the round, we got Tigers playing the last game of the round again. And man, those Tigers rushing Lockie Galvin straight back in. There's 867 of you online here to watch me be sad about Adam Dewey. So let's go through this team list. We've got Buller, Taruva, Dewey, Toa, Naden, Galvin, Luai in the back line. Terrell May jumps up, Coruscant, Pole, Fainu, Seyfarth, and 12. And then we have De Silva, Royce Hunt, Jack Bird, and Sione Fainu. Extended bench here does not include Fainu. So that's pretty worth noting. He's not going to be in the team this week. So for the Tigers, I guess the first question here is, if you got Dewey, do you hold him? You can. You could sell him. You could hold him. Look, the thing is, it's a tough situation, right? Because Lachlan Galvin's management has handed the Tigers legal papers that outline bullying that's taken place. My guess is they're handing those papers in to try and get an early release. I'm not going to go too deep on this topic, but I just think there's a lot going on there that could get really sour really quickly. So I don't know if things change this week. Like just be ready for that. And they played the last game of the round. I'd probably hold Dewey one more week if I was you. But if you got a good trade for him, you can sell him too. It's unlikely he gets the half spot back. The concern here is Dewey didn't play well in that game against Parramatta. Like he's a good player in general, but he had a bit of a shocker in that one. And there were a lot of attacking opportunities where I expected Dewey to take advantage and score a try or set up a try, and he sort of failed to do so. So from a real coach perspective, you're not desperate to put him back in the halves. Like Benji's not going to be sitting there thinking, all right, I want Dewey back in the halves. I expected Dewey to play better in real life. That was my big expectation. I thought he'd play well enough that he would just be the guy in that spot for the next few weeks, and they wouldn't rush Galvin back. They lost to Parramatta convincingly in that game, and they've rushed Galvin back. So I'd give Dewey one more week, but if you can sell, you can go and sell as well. For the rest of the team here and the Tigers, I mean, Stafford Toa, he increases immediately back up to relevance on the back of Galvin being his 5'8". So again, Dewey was sort of holding the ball a lot and not converting on those runs, not feeding Toa as much. We saw Toa get the ball at the end of the game. Galvin feeds his center. So we saw Fayatape in the trial games benefit, and we've seen Toa benefit as well. So Galvin loves feeding his center. That's great news for Stafford Toa. I'll probably have Stafford Toa in my 17 this week. That's my advice on him. You definitely hold him. And yeah, a few of you guys mentioned the same thing. We've all seen it, right? Galvin feeds the center, so Stafford Toa is a good option. Jerome Luai is getting absurdly cheap. And I think Luai's not played well enough, or even close to well enough, to lock in an origin spot. So I think it's going to be Mitch Moses, Nathan Cleary in the halves for the Blues. That is a terrifying halves combo, by the way. If you're the Maroons and you're coming up against the front row we have, the back three we have for field position, and the kicking game of Cleary and Moses, you might not see the opposition half all game. And this might be a bit of cocky Blues talk, but we are going to sweep the series. I'm calling that right now. It's going to be absolutely dominant. Now, for Luai here, 38 points in this game. That is the first time since round one that he scored over 31. He has been in hopeless form for fantasy. Had 2 try assists in this game. 19 tackles, 4 missed tackles, 50 run meters. Like, that's the problem. You get the 50 run meters. He had a good game last week for running, but in the week before it was 14 run meters. Like, to buy Luai and to hold Luai, you need to see 100 plus run meters in back-to-back weeks. Like, that's what you need from Luai. And Luai's best strength is his running game, and he's just not really using it this year. He's carrying a few injuries. I don't know what's going on, but we need to see Luai bring that running game back, because at some point he'll be 400K, and he'll bring it back, and we'll all buy him. But it's not this week. If you have him right now, he's hard to hold, isn't he? Like, you probably sell him. They don't play round 12. Like, I would have sold him weeks ago if I'm being transparent, but I would still sell him this week. I just think he's not scoring well enough to justify anything, really. And we talk about Dewey being a bit of a disappointment. Dewey scored 38 last week. That's Luai's top score since round one. So, I'm talking about Dewey like this. Luai is a pretty firm sell. So, yeah, I'd move him on, but you could hold on and hold out faith if you want to. For the forward pack here, Terrell May is just such a beast. 80 minutes last week is encouraging. The score wasn't crazy considering he scored a try, though. Sharks is a good matchup here. They're a tough forward pack as well. So, I don't know. I'm leaning towards Haas as the captain this week. That's my initial feel, but Terrell May is always a valid captain option as well. You can jump on him. You can jump on Haas. They're on Cleary. It's your call. For the rest of the Tigers team, are there any questions on the rest of this forward pack here? Like, do you have any Seyfarth holders, for example, or anything like that?
Yeah, there is a Alex Mitchell asks. I assume he's looking to trade out Seyfarth. Would you trade out Seyfarth, or would you hold for a week considering that Galvin's back?
Ooh, yeah. I think you could probably sell him if they played round 12. I'll just double. Yeah, they don't play round 12 or round 15. Like, if they play round 12, I'd say hold him, but he doesn't play round 12, so you're going to sell him before that anyway. He might make a bit more cash. He might score well this week. You could say all these different things. I wouldn't hold him. I'd sell Seyfarth.
And there are a couple of Terrame captainers in the chat alongside myself, and I'm sure we've never cheered on the Tigers as much as we did when he crossed the line. So shout out to all you Terrame captainers from last week.
Well, cheer on Parramatta as well for leaving that huge hole for him. Like, he just walked through. But he's an absolute weapon. One of the top averages in fantasy too. Let's go to the Sharks now. So Sharks got Kennedy, Stone Street, and we'll do trade questions after this, guys, by the way. So Kennedy, Stone Street, Ramian, Hiroti, Mulatalo in the back line. We got Trindle and Hines in the halves. Go through the forward pack. We got Fanua, Blake, Brayley, Kafusi, and then we have Nakora, Wilton, and McInnes. Interchange is Atkinson, Talakai, Hautapua, and Hazelton. So when we come to this 1-17, look, Sharks are pretty settled in general. It's too late for Hiroti, if anyone's asking about that. I'm not interested in guys like Kennedy or Stone Street. I don't really mind when they pop off. It's a bit too streaky for me. Nico Hines, he was on 54 points with like 20 minutes to go, and he missed 7 tackles for some reason and just kept his score at 56. Hines is a slight attitude adjustment away from averaging 70, right? I'm watching him, and it just feels like if he ran a little bit harder, like he used to run like he was sort of going to burst through the line. He's not really running like that anymore. But even the way he's playing, he's sort of playing a bit slower. He's breaking tackles, and he's sort of finding opportunities. He's just not quite putting that burst on to go through. So I think Hines is going to rediscover it. And I bought him last week, so I'm all for it, right? But we're counting on him rediscovering some form that he hasn't had for a while, right? So you can do it with me. It's a gamble. It's tough, right? Because like usually I don't recommend buying fantasy players on the back of predicting form. Like, it's a very difficult thing to do. But I think through the Origin period, Nico Hines is going to not be picked for Origin. The Sharks have a great buy schedule, and he's going to see those guys playing at that level. And he's going to think, you know what? Why not me? And he's going to wake up, and we're going to see prime Nico Hines, because I'm a Hines believer, right, at heart. And I think he can pump out that 60+ average. So I'm going to say yes to Nico Hines. And I chose Nico Hines over Fogarty last week myself because I love the upside. But hey, if you want to jump on with me, you can. He might score you a 40 in this game. He might score you 80+. I'm hoping for that 80+. We saw Cleary start slow, heat up. I think we might see the same for Nico Hines. Now, are there any other questions here, Monty, on the Sharks before we go to trade questions?
Yes, we do. There's a couple questions on Blake Brayley as a pod hooker. What are your thoughts on him?
He's solid. He's solid. He's not a lot of value, but you're getting a guy who's getting a job done. He's got a good Origin schedule. Yeah, he's fine. He's fine. I'm not really targeting because he's not a value buy, but if you want Blake, you can get Blake. Yeah, he's solid. He's probably one of the best hookers in fantasy right now. So I'd probably go Aaron Clark instead of him at a cheaper price. But if you like him, you like him.
And then just a quick shout out to Will Kennedy, the Ultimate Pod.
Yeah, if you've had him, you've enjoyed it, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't be chasing him. Can I mention something here too, where I'm just looking at the hookers here. So a lot of you guys have Marmazelis. Marmazelis does not play round 12, but he plays round 15 and round 18. A lot of you guys have Riley Smith. Riley Smith growing into a better and better role. The scores will come, but 80 minutes last week. I like that. Riley Smith plays round 12, doesn't play round 15 or 18. So when you have those two hookers, they're both pure hookers, and they cover round 12, round 15, and round 18. If you buy Blake Brayley and you also have Riley Smith, you will have two hookers in round 12. In round 12, you don't get to play your interchange, right? So you'd have to pick one of them to start, and the other one wouldn't be able to be played in your 13. So really think about that, guys. Like in round 12, it's only your 1 to 13 that count. So you can't play multiples from a position like hooker. So if you've got Riley Smith, I wouldn't be targeting Brayley. And that's where I'm recommending Clark, because Clark covers hooker for you as a genuine starter, but also can be middle forward in those special weeks. So just keep an eye on that. That's the big thing. Jazz Tavanga, someone just asked about there too. Risky with the role, big scorer. He's a bit of an Aaron Clark Jr. I'd go Clark instead. I'd wait a week on Jazz Tavanga. But if you want to take a gamble, I don't hate it, but he'll need to win that lock roll over a bit longer. Any other questions on the Sharks here, Monty, before we jump to trades?
One question on Nikora. Is it just too early for Nikora?
I think he's going to get a bit cheaper, so I'll wait a bit longer for Nikora.
You happy to get into some trade questions?
Let's go. And this has been a long stream, by the way. We went for ages.
It has.
But what do we got here? Hit me up. Trade questions.
All right, here we go. First of all, Nobliss asks Hallsborough and Katonga for Terame and Preston.
May and Preston is so good. I don't like selling Horsburgh and Katonga. I'm going to say yes to this trade, but I'd probably try to find other players to sell instead. So yes, but I wouldn't sell Horsburgh or Katonga just yet.
Brody asks Hines or Sharp, if you could pick one of them.
Ooh, yeah. Depends what your team needs. I'd probably go Hines. I think he's the better scorer, but Sharp, if you need the wing fullbacks, go Sharp.
What's better, Dwayne to Clark and Campbell to Sharp, or would you do the one trade, Campbell to Fogarty?
I'd probably do the first two. Get Clark and Sharp, strengthen your team, go hard. They're good options. Dewey's not locked in to win the half spot back. They've rushed Galvin in, so yeah, do the double trade.
Jordan asks Can't for Herbie, or would you hold Can't?
I'd give Can't another week personally. If you want to do this trade, I'm not going to say no to it because it's a mid-ranger for a full-on gun. But I would keep Can't for one more week because there's the potential that he moves to lock late, starts this game or plays big minutes off the bench, and he becomes like a 55 average at lock and holds that role for the rest of the year. And Frizzell becomes a bench prop or whatever. Like, there's just a chance that happens. So if you've got Can't, you keep him for another week or two.
Now, with Jane and Campbell out, which wing fullbacks would you do? Now, I would like you to rank the wing fullbacks. Garrick, Carraz, Sharp, Tedesco. If you could rank them.
Including origin and buy coverage and all that sort of thing?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Sharp, number 1. I'll go Garrick, number 2. Probably Tedesco, then Carraz. 3 and 4. And I think Tedesco moves up my list when he gets a bit cheaper, which he will in the next fortnight. Carraz would move up my list if he doesn't make Origin. I just think he's playing too well. I think he's going to make the Origin team. So Garrick he's hit and miss, but Turbo's back. He's fine. Like Garrick, he plays all the major buy rounds, so he's a red hot option. And Sharp is just one of those guys who he's got nuclear upside, like in a different level to the other guys that we talked about there. So yeah, it's Sharp and Garrick are number 1 and number 2 there.
Yeah. And thoughts on Katonga, Dwayne, and Seyfarth to Fanua Blake, Carraz, and Aaron Clark?
Katonga, yeah. These are all guys you could sell. AFB, I think it's a bit early. So AFB had that groin issue 2 weeks ago. Last week, he played less minutes. I'm thinking as a result of that, but also because they were winning. Carraz is risky right now as well because I think Carraz makes Origin. Clark's good. I would go back to the drawing board on these trades, but they're okay. They're okay, but there's just a lot of risk in them with AFB's injury cloud and Carraz potentially making Origin.
And then Lucas asks Campbell to Isaiah Katoa, I assume, and Corey Pakes to Clark.
Ooh. Yeah, these are pretty good trades. These are pretty good trades because you're getting, Katoa's been solid. Clark's solid. You're trading out Campbell, who was great, but then Corey Pakes, who's done his time. Yeah, these are good trades. I like it, Lucas.
And Harry asks Duffy to Savala, Campbell to Drinkwater, and Hubner to Kai Pearce-Paul.
Duffy to Savala is a yes. Campbell to Drinkwater is fine as well. Hubner to Pearce-Paul. I'm not the biggest fan of selling Hubner right now, but for Pearce-Paul, I do like it. So I'm going to say yes without being a resounding yes. I'd just say think about other ways to get Pearce-Paul. But if you have to do it this way, it's a pretty good trade.
And then Jacob asks, are there any must-buys this week, do you think?
I think you need to have Savala. I think Savala's rock solid, and the attacking upside is going to come for him. Then outside of him, probably not that many other must-buys, are there? There's if you don't have Dylan Egan, you probably still need to get him. I think he's still a must. But outside of that, what else? What else, man? Like I think it's just Savala really. And I'll
Yeah,
just pop this
I
one up
agree with you
because
on that one.
I'm gonna like shout out myself here. So it's SCR FCE saying thanks. Appreciate it, mate. Appreciate the kind words. I love it. I love it. So it's all good. I'm lucky to be able to do this stuff as a big part of the work I do. So a lot of my time is fantasy stuff. So I'm super lucky that I can do it. And the fact that you guys come on and bring the hype is actually why I can do it. So thank you, and thank everyone else here for making it possible. That's why I try to answer as many questions as we can. Let's hit 3 more here, Monty, and then we do have to finish up because we just hit 2 hours, which is crazy.
Oof. Yeah, all right, let's go. So Ruben asks, Stewart, Hubner, and Clifford to Savala, Dylan Lucas, and Brimson.
Ooh, Stuart Hubner Clifford. Selling Clifford right now is interesting because he's only had that one bad game. Stewart and Hubner. I mean, Hubner I try to hold as well. Stewart's definitely a sell. So Stewart to Savala is good. Lucas, it's a bit early. Brimson, hit and miss. Like I like Brimson. I don't like him that much. I don't think they play round 12. I would go back to the drawing board on this one. I think you need to watch Buy Hold Sell. It comes out tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. I'd watch that and just find some other options there because this it's okay. It's like a 5 out of 10, but I think you can do better, Ruben.
And then Sachin asks, trading Jaden Campbell to Hubner and Walsh to Haas and Savala and Drinky Teddy Garrick. Would it be too late to get on Haas with Origin around the corner?
Haas is still good. Haas could play less minutes through Origin. If you don't have Haas at this point, I mean, you don't need him because he's not going to be an auto captain for you. I'm just looking at his price here 914K, dropped 20K last week. Has a reasonable break even. Should back up from Origin. The problem with Haas is he's playing so well that he will be the dominant prop for the Blues. So he may not back up from Origin. That's the concern I have there. So I would say if you don't have Haas now, I would anti-pod at this point. I think he's already expensive. Got Origin around the corner. I would spend your money elsewhere personally. I'll just hit this one too because Kian's a legend from the Discord here. So he was offered a Parramatta Eels event yesterday, but traded JC to ICAT and Toa to Max King. Yeah, these aren't bad, but I think Toa's a hold personally. But yeah, they're solid trades there. I don't mind those ones, man. But yeah, King is rock solid. Then last question here, Monty. Pick a good one. What do we got here?
All right. How mad are we going to be if Campbell's named to start next week?
I'm tempted to hold him this week, just on the back of that, actually. If I can find any sort of shred of a reputable source giving some sort of rumor about Campbell being all good, I will hold him. Like I'm open to it. I just think he's such a beast, and wing fullback is such a mess. But I haven't found that source yet. So right now he's a sell, but I'll let you guys know. You'll know for sure. If you're on Discord and you follow us on Instagram, you'll see for sure if I hold Campbell because I'll be talking about it 100%. Now I'll just answer this one too. Jacob's asked, what's my rank? So I had a tough week last week. I dropped back a bit. I dropped back from about 700 to about 1700. I'll be back this week. So yeah, still in the top 2000, but just need to get that rank. Keep going in the right direction. And then I'll tally you guys up through the origin period as well because that's where I'm king. Anyway, Monty, how you going? You moved up. Big score last week. What was your score?
Yeah, so 1,040 for me this week. And so
Huge.
I think I went from the 9,000s and now I'm just inside the top 4,000. So it's all going in the right direction. So it's only up from here.
Mate, too good. And then
Greg
I'll shout you out
Margie,
here too.
Flavia.
Freedom Rider. Love the live. We're Stallions, apparently. Love that, Freedom Rider. Appreciates you, Monty, as well. So thank you for the chaos and organizing it all. And yeah, no, mate, you keep it running. So you've made it a lot easier for me to do it out here. That's probably a good note here too, guys. If you do want to follow Monty, just drop the handle here. Let us know. Where do we follow you?
Follow me on Instagram or TikTok, Quickfire NRL Fantasy, post content all week, very similar to Longy. We have good fun in the comments, trades here and there, so come and join us.
Yep, that's Quickfire NRL Fantasy, guys. Monty's everywhere I am, basically. I mean, YouTube, he's with us here, But Instagram, TikTok, his TikTok's pretty big actually as well. But get on the Instagram, go on there, leave a comment, build him up. I want Monty's page to be huge as well. Anyway, thank you guys for jumping on. Thanks for jumping on, everyone, today. Thank you, Monty, as well. Thank you, everyone, in the comments there. You bloody legends. We are going to crush it this week. Let's all get back into the top 1K. I need it this week. And Adam Dewey, I'm probably going to have to say goodbye. All right, see you, everyone.